Hello, my little agitators and instigators and rebels everywhere. How are you? How are you all? It's so good to see you all, and we're back for another debate dissection where I and my lovely co-host Ember are going through a debate, taking it apart, finding what killed it. Cause of death is not that vague or uncertain in this case because we are going through the debate. Well, it wasn't really a debate, actually. So this is a little bit of a misnomer, to be honest with you. So yeah, you've been clickbaited. Gotcha all. It sort of turned into a debate. It was more a discussion. But first off, how are you, Ems? How are you doing? It's all right.
Yeah. So I stayed up a little bit too late the last few nights, but good stuff's
Mm-hmm.
happening.
Yeah.
As you may be aware, Bree and I and a couple other folks started a new
Yeah.
channel, The Transpositions,
Transposition.
which is
Yep.
primarily trans news and such. And I,
Mm-hmm.
we've only done the first show so far, but it's pretty good for a first show, I dare say.
It was
There's still
good.
still some bugs to work out, but it's coming along. So yeah,
Yeah, I caught
super
the
exciting stuff.
I caught about half of that episode kind of thing. I maybe a little under half. I sort of was just opened up YouTube and went, "Oh, transpositions, cool." I didn't even know that you were doing it, to be honest with you, but I was glad I caught it. It was very interesting. And I think Steph was on and talking about, her experiences and stuff, which was good. No, it
Mhm.
was really good. So, wait, it's on your channel, right?
No, it's a
It's its own channel. Yeah, it
f-
was, wasn't it?
yeah. It was a channel that Bree already had set up, which may be why it showed up on your feed because you may have already been subscribed to it before.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was, yes. But I will link it in chat because it was actually a really good show and covered a lot of the issues that, um, well, to be honest with you, a lot of people on both sides are scared to talk and ask about, and there's good reason for
Mhm.
that. It's because, you know, I, I don't want to make trans people feel uncomfortable. So a lot of the questions you have, you kind of feel like, well, I don't want to put them on the spot and have to talk about things that they're uncomfortable talking about. Um, but people to be aware of what some of the challenges and some of the things that the trans community are actually going through is really good. So I really
Mhm.
appreciate that you're sort of sharing with people all of your experiences and sharing the challenges that are facing people in the trans community. I don't think that's sort of covered enough, to be honest with you. But well done. I
Yeah.
think it's really well done. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's mostly Bree, but I'm happy to help. I think it's really important.
Hmm. Yeah, well, Bree has been in the community for a while now. I'm not sure. Like, I didn't know. I don't think she really wants to be a spokesperson, but I think it's important that she does get to air how she feels about everything. I think that's important for everybody. To be able to
Hmm.
discuss, things that you're going through and things that you're, um, um, you know, experiencing, and I hope that everybody here and everybody watching feels that they have, reach out to the community. We have an amazing community, and if you feel like you can't talk to people, reach out, to me,
Hmm.
to Ember, to anybody in the community. They're lovely people. Like, there's tons of people in the community that will listen and care, because we're all human, and we've all got to stick together, and that's it. We're all human. We all have problems. Some of us have different problems, and that's okay. There's problems I have that other people won't experience, being autistic and unable to get myself together. It's okay. Reach out. In fact, I was thinking about doing a reverse room rumble and talk about fears. And what do we fear? Why
Hmm.
do we fear them? Um, talk about some of my fears. It's okay to be afraid. The world's a scary place. It really is. But anyway, I'm getting totally tangents in chat, and I love you all. Please do reach out if you are suffering out there. The community is here to get bring us together and share that load. That's what we're here for. So But today, I mean, we're also here because we love debate, and today we have a cracker. And I'm really sorry about last week. I had, as we Australians say, the Rona, the coronavirus. It was rough. No lie, it was rough. The first time I got coronavirus, it was the worst I've ever been, like sickness wise. And my wife was completely unaffected and just ignored it completely, like just absolutely nothing. The second time I had a sniffle, almost nothing. And my wife was so sick. She was so upset. And, it was horrible. This time, my wife just didn't care. And I got really sick. So it's kind of we're taking turns, which is actually fantastic because the other one takes care of the one that's really sick. So it's actually very nice of the coronavirus to, only strike one of us really badly. The other one can take care of them. It's very, very nice of it. But yeah, I was rough. I was definitely rough. So I apologize, but we're here now. So we've run into Kent before, obviously. We've run into gentlemen before. I haven't seen a lot of Stephen Anderson.
Not to be confused with Mr. Anderson, the new
no
champion
Mr.
of reason
Anderson's,
who's been taking on Kent.
Right, he's a lovely guy. Mr. Anderson is a lovely guy. Very knowledgeable, especially when it comes to law and sort of doing depositions and questioning people. Very, very good at it, actually. There's a lot that we can learn from him. But Mr. Stephen Anderson's a preacher, and a very, very homophobic preacher at that. Like, so hates absolutely loads. I think I have a clip of him here. 1 second. Here we go. Yeah,
he surprised me with that one.
Oh, really? No,
I was expecting
really
it like
is
midway through the show or something.
Well, I couldn't sleep on it. I was so proud of it. I'm so happy with it. Anyway, so he's spoken out about gay people should be, and see, I don't know which is worse because Kent Hovind is a horrible homophobe as well. Right? Let's get this out in the open. He is horribly homophobic. He's just less vocal about it than Stephen Anderson, who is very, very vocal about it. So I don't know which is worse. Probably Kent, to be honest with you, because he's, I don't know, because he's sort of more, sneaky about it, I guess. Maybe you might have.
I think he cares about it less. Like it's a thing he believes, but it's not something that's gonna sell DVDs.
Right. Yeah. So this is them having a discussion, and I'll start it rolling, and we can get into it. Nope, that's not the one. That's not the one either. Where am I? Oh, there we go. And I'll get my view that I like. Beautiful. And this was on the Baptist Bias, which was a YouTube channel.
Because they're all Baptists.
Well, it no longer exists. So I think it's So they got taken down. I think it was because they did some hate speech. Which is is this the guy that interviewed Kent in prison? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Did I watch the show? I didn't watch the show. I don't know which show, girl, but the show, I don't know. Not sure. But it's good to see you all. Yeah, so that got taken down and they're very unhappy about it. Look, YouTube is not a public forum like, being outside. You have First Amendment rights. You don't have First Amendment rights under a corporation. It's just they are put on a platform. They have terms of service. They're allowed to set whatever terms of service they want, and you have to abide by those terms of service if you want to use that platform. That's it. That's the way it works. like, you can jump up and down about First Amendment, but that only covers, like if you're an employee of somebody and you're being hired, you can't go around saying whatever you want in the store, kind of thing. It's the same principle. They get to determine what you do and what you don't do under their employee, within reason, of course. So yeah. Oh yeah. There's a new channel, The Wavelength. No, I only recently got up, Earl. That was a bad time for me, but I definitely will watch it. Yeah, first guest on The Wavelength was Aaron Ra, which is pretty impressive for a first guest. Like that's some stuff right there. I really should reach out to people like that and see if I can get them to
Yeah,
bestow
like I tell
their
everybody, just ask. Some people may not respond, they're too busy, whatever.
right.
Or maybe they're channel size snubs and they're like, "Oh, your channel's too small, whatever." But a lot
Sure.
of these bigger personalities, if you just ask them, they might say yes.
That's true. Yeah. And so yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, so yeah, Pastor Stephen. Oh, okay. So he was the one that interviewed him in jail. Okay, well, they're both as bad as one another, and there's no love lost between them apparently. Are you ready to go? Should we kick this puppy?
Sure.
Let's go. I don't know. It's just these people are horrible. I'm kind of stealing myself for the awfulness.
Brace yourselves, folks.
Yeah, brace yourselves for the awfulness.
Commonality with regard to when the universe was actually created.
And, I want to make sure that for our audience that we kind of explain a few things, because I think our group here understands a lot of this concept really well, but maybe new viewers to creation or these different arguments may not understand some of this terminology. But apparent age is essentially the idea that when God created Adam and Eve, he didn't create babies and let them slowly grow up, but he created an adult male. He created adult trees, and he created a lot of things in maturity. And so they would have maybe appeared or in some ways seem to be older than they are. Adam's 1 day old, but he looks like maybe a 30-year-old man or 40-year-old man, but at least an adult male. And the question is, how much does that apply to the rest of creation? Is that literally everything is going to have this apparent age? Or
yeah, so just straight up front, both of them believe in a creationist and a young Earth creationist. Okay, so both of them believe in the 6,000 years. They just have different positions on what they can show. So the reason why I called it Dumb and Dumber is because one position is dumb, the other is so much dumber. Like seriously,
Right.
it really is.
As Aaron Ra frequently says, if you can't show it, you don't know it. So I'm wondering what it is that either of them can show.
Well, sort of, yeah, no, and I get, and from Aaron Ra's perspective, that's a very, sort of scientific principle, and I totally get that. Philosophically, you can sort of do a last Thursdayism or a last Tuesday and whatever. You can just say, hey, everything was created last Thursday with all of our memories intact. So there's sort of a reductio ad absurdum to be done. If you follow this to its logical conclusion, you could say that the universe was created 1 moment ago, or the universe keeps getting destroyed every moment and recreated every other moment, with all of the memories that you have all intact, kind of thing. It gets to absurd levels. And it's completely unfalsifiable, which is why it's not really something we should even entertain as a concept. But the other way is lying your ass off about the science, which is, obviously Kent's go-to, which is what he's going to do. So those are the two positions. The two positions are, yes, everything seems old, everything looks old, but it was created old. And the other one is, well, the science says that it's young. And it's like, well, obviously not. Like, we know that's not the case. And there's some other questions as well that I might get into, when he starts making his arguments, kind of thing.
Or is some of the phenomena and the things that we see in this world actually point to, maybe just 6,300 years or less than 7,000 years? And so I want to get started with Dr. Hovind. I want to first ask you this question, and we're trying to just have an open conversation dialogue here. And so from just kind of a high level, do you believe there's any scientific proof that the universe is not billions of years old?
There's all kinds of it. By the way, it's good to see Brother Anderson again. I preached at his church years ago. We were just discussing who's the most hated man on the internet. Is it him or me? We're having competition. See who can stir up the liberals and the atheists the worst.
They think that's a badge of pride for them, like that they're hated on the internet. They think, oh, that's great. I'm hated on the internet. That's a badge of pride for this guy.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know Steven Anderson super well. I understand that he's been a hate preacher for many, many decades, but I haven't heard the name the same way I've heard things like Greg Locke. I don't think either of them is even in the running, really. Yeah,
that's true. And I mean, I think there's actually other people that are most hate. People like Logan Paul, and there's people that are probably way more hated than them for probably worse reasons. Like these guys, they're bad. Let's not beat around the bush. They're horrible people, absolutely horrible. They want to take rights away from people. They want to incarcerate people for being who they are. They want to have the government kill people for being who they're horrible people. But yeah.
So good to see you, brother. I'm not aware of any scientific evidence that would say the Earth is billions of years old. There's a lot of scientific evidence that says it is.
Lie number one. He is aware of scientific evidence that says the Earth is billions of years old.
It's been presented to him a lot.
Many times. So, this is where the lies start. He might dispute it, but it is scientific evidence. The idea that it isn't is just a lie.
It's not billions of years old. I've been covering that every Friday night. I've got about 9 different channels I'm on. They're all listed on drdino.com. If you go to DRDINO, there it is right there. We have all these different channels. I've been covering Friday night, different ways to prove scientifically the Earth is not billions of years old. And if you take away time from the atheists, their whole argument collapses.
Not really, no.
No.
The redshift doesn't rely on time. It's just, sort of the cosmic background radiation doesn't rely on time. Not really, I mean, it just the conclusion is that there's been a lot of time. So this is the thing. You're basically saying the Earth isn't billions of years old, but if you take time away, you can prove it's not billions of years old. Well, no joke. That's the whole point. You're saying, hey, let's not enable the conclusions that we've made. And Robin, in a show of sanity for once, has gifted 1 readership and hits Daryl Frost. Nice shot. All right, bam. Winner, chicken dinner. Well done, Robin. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm going to put it on the screen. Love you, Robin. Awesome. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
What happens when you take the Bible away? You can't take the Bible away from the Christians. They will not allow it. That's over their dead body.
Well, that does bring to mind something. I forget who originally said it, but I recall Neil deGrasse Tyson mentioning it, that if you burned all the books in all the world, there was a big cataclysm and all the books were just gone, eventually we'd recreate every science and math text ever written. It'd take forever, but we'd get back to where we are now. But you would never recreate any of the religious texts. There might be different ones, but you'd never get the same ones back, because they're not based on anything in reality.
Yeah, and us doing the scientific process will rediscover all of those things. But the stories from the near Middle East are not going to repeat themselves.
Yeah,
which is a shame.
Sometimes it's a shame. The Tales of Shahrazad.
Nice to have some repeat testing kind of thing, right? Be able to test some of this stuff, but
they'll say, well, give it enough time. Well, what if you don't have the time? Well, then it can't happen. The Bible dates clearly show not.
Yeah, if you don't have the time, then it's not billions of years old. He's basically saying a tautology. If you don't allow it to be billions of years old, then it's not billions of years old.
Yeah, cool. Good job, Kent.
Yeah, that's the dumbest thing. And this is why I'd put Kent as the dumber in this story, because, I mean, sort of saying, hey, things were created at a certain age, to appear a certain age, that's dumb. But Kent's dumber, because he basically will look at the evidence and go, well, just don't allow them to make that conclusion. What the hell?
Billions of years. The Bible says Adam was 130 when Seth was born. And then Seth was 105 when his son was born. The dates are all given in Genesis 5. You go after the flood to Genesis 11, it gives a bunch more dates. You can add all these up and get focus there. Okay. And it comes to roughly 6,000 or so years ago. So the Bible clearly teaches 6,000. I'm not aware of any scientific evidence that cannot be easily refuted to say the earth is billions of years old. I will stand by the Bible being literally true and scientifically accurate.
Scientific evidence.
I definitely agree.
That shows people could live 1,000 years and whatnot. Like ever.
There's none.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there is none, but they start with the inerrancy of the Bible. So that's what they start with. So I sort of brought this up. There's a room rumble I went into with Doc Dino, who asked me on because there were tons of people, and in the after show, sort of asking why they come to these conclusions. Like, why do they come? Like, they follow the scientific method. Why do they come to this conclusion? And I think, and I will stand by, it's because they start with the conclusion first that they want to reach. Apologetics is basically that. It's starting with the conclusion and making these justifications as to why your conclusion is correct, which is the antithesis of science. You know, science is make the observation first, then, you know, follow it to the conclusion. Not the other way around.
And attempt to falsify your own idea rather than try to verify your preconception.
So yeah, that's the reason they start with the Bible always. So they start with the idea that the Bible is 100% true, and we just have to find why it's true. And that's sort of why they will never say, well, what evidence do I have that these people did live to 900 years of age? It's why they'll never go there. It's just that is true to start with, which is, I don't understand that kind of mindset, because I won't even, you know, guarantee that my senses are true in that level of confidence, that 100% level of confidence. So yeah.
It's
oh, that's hilarious. That's hilarious.
So
yeah, so Kent said in the past, if you need an explanation, Kent said in the past the reason why dinosaurs existed is because they were reptiles and they just had more oxygen back then. So yeah, it's kind of one of the dumb things he said that, you know,
and
is
his
right
specialty is dinosaurs. Yeah. Super.
Agree with you when it comes.
Well, I mean, he has fake degrees, but none of them are actually in paleontology or anything like it. They're in theology, and they're not even a real degree. That's the thing. Like, do you know how bad it is when you have a degree in theology and you have to make it up? That's bad. Like, theology isn't that hard a degree to get, really. Not compared to something like physics or, you know,
yeah, well, it depends on where you go. Like, if you go to a Catholic seminary where, you know, they still take some pride in learning. Like, they have had some great scholars over the centuries, despite the many, many, many problems that have come out of Catholicism.
Sure.
But then there's places like the, you know, World Free Federal Bible Baptist something church of COGIC or whatever the hell, where it's just not up to any kind of standard at all.
Right.
Comes to, you know, the Bible, not subscribing to that. But I guess I want to kind of, before I go over to Pastor Anderson on this, I want to just kind of ask you more from like a scientific perspective. So, you know, not necessarily just from the biblical account, but what would be, in your opinion, maybe the best scientific argument for the universe or the earth being, you know, not billions of years old, kind of limited to a 6,000 approximate year creation? I don't know if you're muted on that.
I want to play my cricket.
Yeah, for you, okay. Dr. Hovind, I'm just saying, what would your top argument, if you're going to say, someone's saying, you know, not necessarily looking at the biblical record, but what would be your top evidence if you believe there's a scientific argument that kind of demonstrates the universe not being?
Well, one that's easy for people to understand, the moon is getting farther away from the earth. The moon is leaving us about 1.5 inches a year. Nobody argues about that. The moon is receding. There's all kinds of articles on the internet about that. They're receding, but the moon is getting farther away. We're losing the moon. Space, all kinds of websites cover this topic. The moon is moving away about 1.5 inches a year. Well, 1.49 inches, they got it down that close, okay? Well, if the moon is leaving us, that means it used to be closer. If you bring the moon in closer, you create a problem because the gravity becomes stronger. The closer they are, the more gravitational attraction they have. Use the inverse square law. A lot of people have done all the math on this and say, look, the Earth-Moon system cannot be more than 1 or 1.2 billion years old. Why is the moon getting further away? The moon is leaving us. Cornell University, the moon is leaving the Earth at 3.8 centimeters a year, 1.5 inches. The moon's been drifting away for 2.5 billion years. Well, this guy didn't do the math, okay? Way less than that. There's a law called the inverse square law. If you bring two...
Oh, yeah. You cite somebody in there said, you didn't do the math on that one. Bet you did.
Yeah. And Kent's big, one of several issues, but one of the bigger ones is that he's doing that thing that creationists love to do and assuming that what's happening today is the same as what's always been happening. The moon is moving away from the Earth at roughly 1.5 inches a year today, but that rate has not been constant over all of time.
He's assuming it has to be constant, and the thing is, the closer an object is, the more gravity has an effect on it. So the moon, the further it gets away from the Earth, the faster it will move away from the Earth, basically, because the gravitational pull will be less. So, this whole idea of, it has to be why does it have to be constant? Why wouldn't it be that the gravitational attraction made it move less in the past? Why is that? No answer. And he just ignores this question. I've asked him that before. He just ignores it.
Objects that attract each other closer together. Let's say you bring it into 1/3 the distance. You take that fraction 1/3, flip it over, and square it. It's 9 times the gravitational pull. Inverse square laws, I taught physical science 15 years. Inverse square laws apply to gravity.
He taught physical science. No, he was a Sunday school teacher. He didn't teach physical sciences. He has no qualifications for teaching physical sciences. That's the thing.
To light, to magnetism, or light intensity, magnetic forces are affected by this. And girls, the closer you get, the more the attraction is. So anyway,
for fuck's sake, Kent, that's just pure cringe. And also,
it is pure cringe.
Yes, light and gravity. They have very similar formulas. Magnetic forces, similar equations, but there's a hard limit to magnetic influence. It isn't the same. It doesn't inverse square law. Not the same thing.
Yeah, and sort of this cringy stuff. He's supposed to be this is like a Christian show, and he's making basically sexual attraction jokes. It's just. He's terrible. He's terrible.
Oh, he's so terrible. I mean, he's showing his hand right out of the gate, which I guess he doesn't care enough anymore to even pretend to have a case. He's directly asked by a friendly host, what's your best scientific argument for 6,000 years? He doesn't even have one. All he can do is try to pick apart the standard model. Yeah. Badly, but that's all he can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Flat Earth tries to. They never have a map of their own. They never have equations of their own to show how their system works. It's always, hey, there's something wrong with yours. And that's basically what he's saying.
They've done all the math on this and say, look, the Earth-Moon system, you bring it in 1 billion years ago, it's 28,000 miles closer, and the orbit's going to collapse. If the Earth-Moon system cannot be more than 1.2 or 1.4 billion years.
What?
That's still not 6,000. That's still not 6,000. You've been asked for evidence to show that the Earth is only 6,000 years old. And you've gone to, well, it must be around 1.5 billion.
Yeah, good job, I guess. But well also, done, no, if the moon was 28,000 miles closer, that's not even 10% of its average orbital distance. 10% closer, that's not a collision with the Earth.
No. And plus, you're assuming that the rate of recession is always the same. That the recession rate, as it got closer to the Earth, the gravitational attraction from the Earth would be higher, and therefore the recession rate would be lower. It would be lower, but you're not taking any of this into an account. All you're doing is saying, hey, the recession rate is this much. It was the same the entire time back through the history. That's the solution. But it still doesn't get you to 6,000 years. This is my point.
Yep.
And you've got to sort of say, hey, well then, the God created Earth with a moon that's already in orbit, recessing away from the Earth for some reason. why?
Well, because if
Like-
if it went the other way, it would hit the Earth.
Yeah, but why? Why not just have a stable orbit that's not recessing at all? I don't.
Oh, stable orbits are no fun. I mean, it is a
Oh,
stable
okay.
orbit. It's lasted for billions
yeah,
of
yeah,
years.
yeah.
It's just very slowly drifting outward, and it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
even like actually drifting. Like there's an exchange of forces. Like that's why the
Yeah.
Earth is slowing down, because the moon is stealing our rotational energy in order to get further out.
hmm I'm just saying that, like, you know, if a god wanted to design a planet, then, you know, you'd make it perfectly balanced, like everything should be.
Yes, as all things should be.
All hail Thanos.
So why are we saying it's 4.6 billion years? Just that one proof takes away their billions of years. The lunar orbit collapses. They call it a well-known lunar orbit collapse. It's a problem, timescale problem. But they ignore it because they need billions of years to turn their frog to the prince. So I think that's a good one, easy one to understand. Look, guys, the moon's getting farther away. Yeah, but it used to be closer.
But that's not evidence for 6,000 years.
Mm-hmm. And you know, if one piece of evidence is enough to establish an entire system, then let's have a look at the oldest piece of the Earth's crust found, you know, right in your backyard in Australia, which was I think 4.2 billion years old.
Yeah,
it's pretty old dirt. A little more than 6,000 years. And we've cross-verified that with samples from asteroids and shit, which ostensibly have been around since the start of the solar system at roughly 4.5 billion years. So the math seems to work.
Yeah, but he doesn't believe in radio. Like, so he will deny any science that doesn't agree with his Bible. Like, so radiometric dating doesn't work. You're using fossils to date each other, kind of thing. You know, you're using the fossil to date the rocks and the rocks date the fossil, which is not true. We use all kinds of methods to date rocks, and, you know, just looking at fossils in one of them. Yeah, if people are doing a dig and they find fossils and they index fossils, they can get a rough idea of how old it is, but that's not how we date them. You know, we use radiometric dating, and we use multiple radiometric dating methods to make sure to cross corroborate that date is correct. But like all science deniers,
radiometric dating isn't in the Bible, and Kent's not being circular by using the Bible to prove the Bible. That's a double standard.
No, that is virtuously circular, not viciously circular.
Yeah, thank you. I think that makes sense. Obviously, if the moon has been receding, that does put a timetable on it, and assuming that rate was consistent, I think that logic seems reasonable.
Assuming the rate is consistent, which it wasn't. Yeah, so
I do want to say, I want to go to Pastor Anderson now, and I want to kind of give you a chance to first answer that original question, and then if you want to respond or comment on the moon receding issue. We are going to be taking some questions from the chat. So if you have questions during the live stream, put them in the chat, whether in YouTube or Rumble. We're streaming on both. Also, we're going to be taking call-ins this evening. We'll probably wait another 45 minutes or an hour to take some call-ins. But if you'd like to ask a question on the show, you can always call us in. So Pastor Anderson, to go back to that first question, do you think there is any scientific proof that the universe or the Earth is not 60 or is not billions of years old?
Well, first of all, let me just say I 100% disagree with everything, literally everything that Ken Hovind just said, because of the fact that, no, I do not believe that there is.
Yeah. This is the weird thing. He will acknowledge all the scientists are doing a good job. They come out with this age. Just wait for the follow-up.
Evidence that the Earth is less than 7,000 years old. The reason I believe that is because the Bible says that. And the reason I don't believe that there's any scientific evidence for the Earth being less than 7,000 years old is because of the fact that when God created the Earth, he created a mature Earth. So he created an old Earth 6,300 years ago. So just as he created Adam as an adult, just as all the trees of the garden were adults, the whole universe is an adult, the sun is an adult, the Earth is an adult, everything was created as a mature, finished creation. And it has the appearance of being much older than it is. And so, Dr. Hovind has said that there's no evidence that the Earth or...
Well, Mark, were you created as an adult? I was not created as an adult. My kids were not created as adults. So I dare say not everything was created as an adult. And I don't know what the fuck Pastor Anderson's talking about there.
So this is sort of where you get into last Thursdayism, that, hey, we could have been created last Thursday with all of our memories intact and all of our things. Like, so there's no real way to disprove it, but because it's completely unfalsifiable and uninvestigatable, it's kind of one of those issues that isn't even worth looking into. It's not even a candidate explanation, because if you have, so really I'm going to talk about, just for a second, explanatory scope and explanatory power, right? So sort of explanatory scope is how many things can be explained with your explanation. So if you sort of say, hey, it was a conspiracy of a global cartel kind of thing. Almost any human affairs can be explained with it. And a god's even worse, because just about anything at all, anything that happens anywhere in the universe ever, when you have a mysterious god that can do literally anything, it can be an explanation for anything. But it doesn't have any explanatory power, which means sort of how much you are explaining the nuts and bolts of how it occurred, the process, if you will. So when you talk about evolution, it's got a lot of explanatory power. We understand mechanisms really well, but it doesn't have a lot of explanatory scope. I mean, it can't explain really why we have this hard problem of consciousness, and it can't really explain certain things, about our lives and things, like why we do this and why we do that. It doesn't have that. So its scope isn't huge. All it explains is biodiversity, really. That's all it explains. It doesn't explain why, how life started, for instance, or anything like that. But its explanatory power, how much it explains it, how in-depth and rigorous it is absolutely amazing. God, his explanation is so low on power, like why this happened, how it happened, is non-existent, but its scope is infinite. You can explain anything with it. And those explanations are generally not even worth considering, because it's like sort of saying, hey, it was magic, or hey, it was unicorns, or hey, it was this other thing that we can't investigate, can't have a look at. It just is.
The butler did it.
The butler did it, yeah, essentially. But I mean, we could at least investigate whether the butler did it or not. So it's even worse, because we can't even investigate this.
I mean, God's not as good an author as Agatha Christie.
No, not many are. Not many are. Yeah. And Agatha Christie went missing. Did you know that? She just suddenly vanished for a while. That was interesting.
Yeah, she kind of pulled an Agatha Christie mystery in her own life. It was pretty interesting.
Pretty cool. Yeah, no, they're both deplorable humans, Mark. I totally get you, mate. They're both absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. But this whole idea. So, but that means that you would have to sort of say, hey, that God created the Earth with a moon that is moving away from it at some point 6,000 years ago for some reason. Like, we don't understand why. And why make it look like it's natural causes?
Well, we do know why. I mean, let us not be guilty of the same nonsense as Hovind and Anderson here. P-Town has explained to us precisely why the moon is moving away at 1.5 inches a year, so that it's in our lifetime specifically that the moon is just the right distance from the Earth to fit exactly over the sun. So we get these pretty eclipses.
But it's not exact. That's the thing. Like, you can have the moon with some of the eclipses have a perihelion around it, the light ring,
annular ring, yeah.
Annular ring, yeah, that's it. So it's not exact. That's the thing. And because of the way that optics works, a very, very long distance, long variation, it won't show much when you're looking at through that angle. So it's not even that precise. It's just roughly about the same size, and sometimes it's bigger, sometimes it's smaller. But why pay attention to details if you can just make a wide sweeping statement and just believe it for as your evidence?
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, our big giant moon is the biggest in the solar system relative to its host planet, as long as you discount all the dwarf planets, and it's the only moon that can create a total eclipse on its host planet, as long as you don't pay attention to anything past the asteroid belt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a lot of ifs right there. That's
Details.
a lot of ifs.
Yeah.
Details. Yeah.
Or the universe is billions of years old. I would disagree. I would say that pretty much all of the evidence is that it appears to be extremely old, but that it is simply because God created a mature creation, just like he created Adam as a mature adult. Now, let me just point out the problem with his logic on the moon issue, okay? Is that if we make a graph of data, okay, and let's say, these are my data points, and then I draw like a trend line through it, and I'm talking about a trend over time. Well, here's the thing about that. The data on how far away the moon is only coming from very recently. So we're looking at data from like the end of the 20th century, early 21st century. And then basically what he wants to do is, instead of, just dealing with the trend that we see with the data we have, he wants to basically just extend this to places where we have no data, or, extending it out into the future where we have no data. And so, when you're doing science, if you have these data points, that tells you how far it's drifting away right now, but you can't necessarily assume that it's always done that or that it's always going to do that, because there isn't any data. All the data is recent on that subject.
So when it comes to, the moon receding, if we say that it was receding at the same rate, kind of, that is an assumption that's being brought into the calculation. That does tend to potentially reduce the amount of years that the universe could be. I think Dr. Hovind had brought up that maybe it's at 1.5 billion, or it's definitely less than 4.5 billion. Let's just say that was true. Even 1.5 billion, still a giant leap away from 6,300. So that would still almost give credence to an idea that the universe is much older than at least 6,300 years. That's not going to necessarily limit creation to 6,300 years. I'm interested,
Wow, even the host pointed it out that doesn't get you to the 6,000 years he asked you for. And I mean, that's Kent in a nutshell. Can you provide evidence for the 6,000 years? And he goes to, well, it's not 1 point something, it's not 4.5 billion. Okay, but that doesn't answer the question. It's classic Hovind, right? Like, he doesn't actually answer the question, just goes on and makes the points that it's almost politician-like. Like, don't answer the question the journalist has asked. Say, here's the real question and answer that question, kind of thing.
Yeah, well, it's Apologetics 101. It's the same thing William Lane Craig and Greg Kokel and all those guys do. It's just they're smoother and more polished about it. Kent is just really overt, like, I'm not answering that, I'm just going to say this instead.
Yeah.
From your viewpoint, Dr. Hovind, does the moon receding really point to 6,000 years? Or is it just kind of refute the 4.5 billion number?
No, I think if you ask me the original question, what is the scientific evidence that indicates it's not billions of years old? That's just one of many, many ways.
It's not the fucking question,
He didn't ask that. He asked what the scientific evidence to show that it was 6,000. That's what he asked. So he said show 6,000 and not 4 point whatever billion. So, this is Kent, and this is what he does. When you ask him a question, he'll answer a different question and then insist that was the question he was asked. And it's kind of, he does it all the time to us atheists, and it's really good that people can pick up on it. But it's interesting that these guys are picking up on it as well.
Happy Atheist Day, by the way. I know you're in the future, so it was yesterday for you, but yeah.
Oh, it's Atheist Day?
Yeah.
I didn't know we had a day. Oh, yeah. All right, cool. Thank you. Happy Atheist Day. Happy Atheist Day, everybody out here. Yeah. Awesome. I didn't know we had a day. Does that make me a bad atheist? Am I now out of the inner circle? Am I now not the inner circle?
It's a minor sin. You just need to say 3 Hail Sagans and buy somebody a coffee. I don't know.
Okay, all right. No, I'll get my wife one. It'll make her happy. Actually, just to say something about my wife. Like, we were out yesterday, and I think I've mentioned this on Docs, but we're out yesterday, and we saw Oppenheimer on Netflix. It's come to Netflix, and I haven't seen it, and neither has she. So we decided to watch it, and she's like, "Oh, I want popcorn." And I'm like, "Yeah, we can get some popcorn and sit down and watch Oppenheimer." So she decided to call it Poppenheimer, that watching it. And I just went, I love you so much that you're calling this event Poppenheimer. I just love it so much. It made me so happy. Yeah, it's just, I'm so on a wavelength with her. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to call it Poppenheimer." I'm like, God, that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, I'm feeling great. Thank you, Dara. I've got a tiny bit of a sore throat, but nothing really. It's you're not an atheist. Okay. Has you converted? Has Maya converted?
No, Maya
or she just
deconverted. Maya used to be
deconverted?
a Christian-y Christian, and is I don't actually. I've never asked Maya what her beliefs today are. I just go with,
Oh.
of course you can't be an atheist, because being a literal goddess means you cannot be an atheist.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Oh, there you go. I didn't know. That's okay. I'd love. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
I agree completely. The Bible is true. The Earth is about 6,000 years old. I've never said anything other than that. However, the evolutionists are not going to believe that. They don't care what the Bible says. So you got to speak their language, and you look at the scientific evidence. If I told you, here we go, right here, slide number 120, Alt DV. Okay, if I told you these Bic ink pens were 5,000 years old, how could you refute my claim? Well, let's get a timeline here. 5,000 years old. Let's look at some scientific evidence. The ballpoint pen was invented in 1888. Oh, well, that just proved my 5,000-year claim wrong. That one fact proved my 5,000-year claim wrong. So.
We've got a super chat from Beheaded Kamikaze for 15 Australian dollars. Thank you, Kamikaze. Happy Atheist Day, everyone. Here's a coffee for Mark and Ember for my penitence for missing our day. Thank you so much. That's awesome. I missed it as well, so I'm not sure I deserve it, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
We're going to make this a tradition now. 3 Hail Sagans and a coffee.
And a coffee. Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good. And this big pen analogy is so bad, like just terrible. Like big pens were invented in 1888, so it can't be older than 1888. Like, but we don't have that. Like, this is another one of those false analogies because we don't have that for the Earth. Like, you're trying to give the Bible as this historic thing that says when it was created, like the Bic pen was created in 1888. But we have a ton of evidence to show that the Bic pen was invented in 1888, right? Like the plans and the people that did it and a history behind it. And we don't have anything for the Bible. Yeah, it's like Donnie's car analogy. Absolutely. It's a terrible analogy.
I don't get this one's actually about. I kind of enjoy it though, because I kind of want to say to Kent, well, how do you know that they were invented in 1888? Were you there? I mean, it's not in the Bible, so how could you possibly know it for sure, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. It's just these analogies. I don't.
It had to be created after 1888. Then that's just one fact. The ballpoint pen wasn't invented until 1888. Then you say, when were plastics invented? 1907. Wow. Well, that just brought it down to 1907. So the Bic Corporation didn't even become a company until 1945. So just those 3 simple facts, Bic Company became a business 1945. So you look at the scientific evidence, it's not 5,000. It had to be after 1945. Now, I still don't know when the pen was created, and actually I don't care. But it had to be after 1945. This is the way you have to work. The moon just simply takes away their 4.5 billion, reduces it to 1.2 billion. There's lots of other ways to reduce it even less than that, which I would be glad to share if you'd like.
Yeah, so I agree with your logic there. And I think that
Does he think the Earth came into existence the same time as the rest of the universe? I think he may think that.
I think he may think that, yeah. But, I mean, the universe is 13.6, I think, billion years old. So we're just talking about the age of the Earth here. I'll just look it up. It's 13.7 billion years. But the age of the Earth,
thereabouts. Although we're still working with.
Right.
I had an article yesterday that I sent over to Dr. Tapioca Weasel because it made some peculiar claims that I wanted to talk through. But it proposes that if the model in there holds up, that it's double. It's 26 point something now, but there's some issues with that model, so I'm not going to put any stock in it just yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I totally get you, and there will be some. We're going to update numbers as we go along, but we can be real confident that we're not going to get down to 6,000. Like, that's not going to happen unless you're like Stephen Anderson here, that without any evidence or any real reason, just say, hey, it was created looking 13.7 billion years old. that's what the universe was created looking like. And then, you have other things that you'd probably have to explain. Why didn't God create the earth looking the same age? Why then reduce that to 4.6 billion? I mean, there's nothing stopping you from believing that, but really, if you're going to have a reasonable and rational view of reality, you have to have explanations for all of things. And then it gets even harder, because you have to sort of explain why Adam and Eve happened, but sort of mitochondrial Eve is a different age than Y chromosome Adam, kind of. You have these problems that come up. Like, how does that work? Why would God create this situation where it looks like to all intents and purposes, it absolutely looks like these hominids were at different times, different locations, and didn't follow the word of the Bible. So there's problems there, absolute problems there.
That's a valid point. I think that the moon receding doesn't necessarily drag us to 6,000 or anywhere close, though. It's still billions of years old. So let me see if I can ask it a little bit more clearly. Do we have any limiters, like you just brought up, that would bring us all the way back down to 6,300 or 6,000?
Well, I think we have the human population, the growth of our human population. I think almost everybody that studies population growth would tell you that the human population today is almost 8 billion, but in 1880 it was only 1 billion. At the time of Jesus Christ, the human population was only about 0.5 billion. So if you look at the population growth charts, it shows clearly man's only been here a few thousand years.
That is not what the human growth population charts show. No.
Yeah,
that is not what it shows.
There's a number of issues. Like he's
yeah.
We've addressed this many times, both of us in many videos, but he's doing the same thing as he did with the moon. He's assuming that the growth rate happening today is the same growth rate that it has always been, when in fact the growth rate today is much higher than it has ever been in recorded history, because we have modern medicine, relatively cheap vegetables thanks to fertilizers, and all sorts of other advantages that increase successful birth rates,
Yep. And sort of population growth is exponential. So the higher it gets, the faster it will go. It's an exponential process. So and plus, I mean, there's certain things that like, for instance, the Spanish flu, for instance, it wiped out like 1/3 of the world's population. Was it 1/3 of the world's population? I can't remember. Hang on a second.
Yeah, that seems really high.
And like, so stuff like that, and things like the wars and stuff like that really lower the population. But he's not doing that. He's not taking that into account. 25 to 50 million? Yeah, maybe it wasn't that high.
Yeah, it was bad, but not like Black Death bad, which, wiped out 1/3 of Europe and who knows how much in other continents.
Yeah, but it was bad, and sort of, so this whole idea that the population is this steady line is not accurate, because that has to be weighed against the massive amounts of deaths that have occurred, especially in the past. And we are living in a time of relative stability, compared to something like World War II. It's relatively stable. So yeah, and nobody in secular sort of areas that are considering Hovind's, well, if you go back 6,000 years, the population would be, but really you have to go back 4,000 years to get to the flood, where it was 8 people. That's essentially what you've got to do.
Yeah.
And then you've got to explain how 8 people can turn into, there was the Akkadian Empire some 100 years, 130 years later, had like a population of about 1 million people. Like, explain that one, how 8 gets to 1 million in that time frame. Good luck, because they would have to bang like rabbits, like seriously, like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
But they want to have these charts from the atheists that say, oh, for millions of years, people didn't know how to make babies. They couldn't figure it out. And all of a sudden, they learned how to make babies. They got their charts going back thousands and it's not, the population chart is very clear evidence that man has not been here more than 5,000 or 6,000 years. I believe 8 people got off of Noah's Ark 4,400 years ago, started having babies, and here we are today. So I think the population would bring it, just the population growth chart.
But see, that says like billions of people. And at 4,000 BC, there's no dip in that, right? There's definitely like, you know, millions of people. Don't forget, a billion is 1,000 million. So what the hell? At 4,000 BC, you've still got like, you know, a few million people at least. I don't like, you know, he just shows stuff and sort of says, hey, it backs me up. No, it doesn't. And this is why you should always ask for citations and always check those citations from creationists. The number of times I've asked for a citation from a creationist, they give me the citation and it completely refutes their own argument is incredible. It's one of those laws of it. It also applies to flat earthers as well. Like, you know, check their citations and they'll often be refuting themselves.
When the citations aren't made up by Chat GPT.
Well, yes, yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing, like, I remember watching a dinosaur debate and arguing with somebody, and they sent through what they said, oh, here's all the ways the fire breathing could work. And it literally was a document debunking all the possible ways that dinosaurs could have breathed fire because it would blow them up. And it was a glorious document. I think I shared it with all of you after we were talking about it. And like, it had pictures of the dinosaur's head exploding and things like that. Like, it really was debunking his entire argument. And you know, I've always held on to it because it was just glorious. Good evening. Good evening. Like T-Rock last night. Yeah, T-Rock last night. Wow. He was bringing up all these citations that obviously proved him wrong. Like, it was fantastic. It was just fantastic.
Yeah, I thought I heard Bree.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, that's why Maya said Kentathon when she came in, because Bree did Hovind and the fire-breathing dragons this morning.
Oh dear.
It was pretty.
Where's my
pretty great.
science? I didn't see that. Was it earlier this morning? I must admit, I got up a bit late.
Yeah, Live from the Hive starts at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, so for you it would have been like 10:30 or 11:30 p.m. So, you know.
Yeah, I think I was streaming at that point. But there's Hive science. So if you want to see why fire-breathing dragons won't work, go to Live from the Hive. For science.
For science.
For science. Oh, I don't see it there. I must just be going out of my mind. That's all right. It'll be up there somewhere.
Yeah, it's been known to happen.
Anybody who disagrees that this is a reasonable United Nations population growth chart, 2004. A lot of people have done research on this and say, look, man's not been here for millions of years, unless you want to say they couldn't figure out how to make babies. I've seen some real stupid people figure that out. Okay, so it's not complicated.
Yeah, like you can. And it isn't. Yeah. So here's the thing: that the population, yeah, it kind of like you're. It's not they couldn't figure out how to make babies; they couldn't figure out how to keep them alive. That's something we've had a problem with. Like people dying in childbirth, the child not surviving infancy. It's a problem, but the populations have grown. It's just things like, I don't know, the Mongolians have sort of put a large dent in that population. Things like, you know, the Crusades, where a lot of people died. Like, he's assuming that people are just making babies and there's nothing counterbalancing that. You mentioned the Black Death. There are other diseases that you know, impacted upon people. People, you know, died of just trying to sail somewhere. You know, people would have wars. People would, you know, this is the whole myopic, stupid understanding of like population that if it goes up, it's just people making babies. If it, you know, and as we go further back, infant mortality rates and death rates, were really high. That's
miscarriages, everybody dying from complications in childbirth. And then, of course, there's medical technology, if you want to call it that, washing your hands and shit, germ theory. That made a huge difference in infant and mother mortality. So prior to that innovation, you might have a successful delivery and not miscarry and have enough food to feed your baby, and you still die because the doctor just came from the morgue and didn't wash his hands.
Yeah.
What's your opinion? Yeah, Pastor Ernst, what's your opinion on the human population?
Well, of course, I would absolutely agree that human beings have only been on this earth since God created them 6,300 years ago. And I would also agree that, of course, only 8 people got off the ark and that the entire human population has come from those 8 people. But again, I do want to split hairs about this thing of him saying that the flood happened 4,400 years ago, because that is not biblical. That is false. And the chart that he's holding up is wrong, and it's demonstrably false. And this is a big deal because his chart that he sells on his website says that the children of Israel were only in Egypt for 215 years. And in order to get this 4004 BC, 6,000-year-old earth, according to the Bible, you have to put the children of Israel in Egypt for only 215 years, when the Bible very clearly states in Exodus 12 that the children of Israel were in Egypt for 430 years, not 215. And so that is over 200-year discrepancy just right there in the chart. There's some other discrepancies as well, but that's really the big one. And so if we believe the Bible is God's word, then we must believe that the children of Israel were in Egypt for 430 years, not 215 years, as that chart shows.
Yeah. No, the children of Israel weren't in Egypt at all. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm like, I get that he's using a specific detail from the book they both agree is magically delicious to debunk Ken, but I just don't care. I don't care what the book says. We know from archaeology, paleontology, anthropology, etc., that never fucking happened. So I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that but he's going to the floods got to have happened as well. And so it did come from 8 people. And you've got problems with that, like massive problems with that. Maybe his timeline gives more time for people, but you're still not going to get to 1 million people in the Akkadian Empire. There's no way you're going to get there with just another 200 years. It's just not going to happen.
Even if all the people went into the Akkadian Empire, then you still have to populate Egypt, which, incidentally, the history of Egypt runs right through the time period that the flood was supposed to have happened, and no one there seemed to notice, let alone die off. You've got to populate the Chinese kingdoms. At the time, there were many, many Chinese kingdoms, many of them keeping records, which still exist today. They never noticed that they were dying in a flood. It's very peculiar.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to ask though, when we talk about human population for a second here, are you also agreeing that from a scientific perspective that it seems scientifically provable or that it leads to the conclusion that population would really only limit it to a couple, 6,000 years or 6,300?
I would agree that it's very unrealistic to believe that the human population just stayed so incredibly low for so long. I mean, here's the thing. If you believe in the kind of Bible rejecting paradigm that humans evolved from apes, you'd have to believe that humans are basically just accomplishing nothing for hundreds of thousands of years, and they're just kind of going ooga booga, and then all of a sudden, around 2700 BC, they just start building giant cities and aqueducts and all of these magnificent structures. Obviously, that's unrealistic. I do believe.
Yeah, that's because nobody believes that. Like,
this fellow hasn't even done basic reading. We should send both of these guys a link to Mini Minuteman's channel, because even though he's snarky as fuck about archaeology, he will teach you stuff. Like Göbekli Tepe, 10,000-year-old city, Yeah.
These ideas that we suddenly got architecture and things, that is not even remotely accurate. It is a long, grueling discovery of basic principles leading up to there.
Yeah, send a modern human back to Paleolithic times and okay, teach, the humans of that time all the science. Good luck. And also good luck surviving when you don't even know how to nap flint to make your own stone tools.
Right. I mean, I think I could work it out, but I probably wouldn't be any good at it at first.
Oh yeah, it
Probably
would suck
not.
for a while.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's how you learn. And that's the whole point. Like, this whole idea that we just arrived with all this technology is not at all accurate. We just sort of put up rocks at some points, like just sort of put rocks together, and that's the start of architecture. It wasn't incredibly complicated.
Yeah, like piling rocks. I mean, you can get really enthusiastic about your rock piles and end up with something like the Great Pyramid of Giza, but I mean, there's pyramids all over the world. It's not that difficult. It just there's so much to it. Yeah, science takes a long time to discover. In 10,000 years, assuming humans don't go extinct, there's going to be future people having debates along these lines. Like, what the hell were people doing in the 21st century? They went from, discovering the airplane to atomic weapons and space travel. And then they went back to banning abortion for some reason. Like, what the hell were they doing,
Mm-hmm. I we have very, very crude tools, like you said, napped stone and things like that. We didn't arrive with this amazing technology. We just didn't. I mean, at one point we're in the Bronze Age. Like, people just don't know about iron working in the slightest. Like, they've got no idea what iron is or that they could use it for anything. It's not, it's not jumping in. People thought that bronze was an amazing accomplishment.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's archaeological evidence that the Mesoamericans, the post fall of the Mayan Empire, discovered iron deposits, but thought it was worthless rock because they didn't have the technology to make uh, smelting. Not smelting. What's the purification process for metal ore? The word eludes me at the moment. They couldn't make a fire hot enough to use the iron for anything, so they thought it was just waste rock.
Yep. I hate you so much, Bree. Lesson on Bad Science Sunday. And yes, that is bad science. Yep, absolutely. Oh, that's horrible. Learned it from Atlantis. No. But I don't know where he gets this idea that would suddenly we started building cities out of nowhere. It's just at a certain point, you can like build structures. You've got the technology to build structures that last a long time. That's all. Like, it's not like we weren't building stuff before then. They find layouts of, villages and stuff. I think in Japan they found a village like layout that was, sort of 20,000 years old kind of thing. Like, we were building stuff before then, buddy.
Yeah.
That you can just
the
objectively look at
fascinating thing about archaeology and paleontology, at least the human side of things, is that we're constantly finding where and when all these old technologies first popped up. Like, we for the longest time we assumed that the agricultural revolution tracked back to about 12,000 years ago, but then we're finding settlements that are older than that clearly had something resembling agriculture. So
say, okay, human beings haven't been here for hundreds of thousands of years now. Human beings were created by God 6,300 years ago, and the flood happened approximately 4,700 years ago, and then the population has grown from there. And you can do the math, and it does work. If you start with those 8 people, you can get to the populations that we see in the ancient world with some pretty realistic numbers.
No, you can't. That's the thing. Dr. Josh Bowen has gone through this. Like, you have to do so. Even if you do a internal critique of the Bible, you've got like the 8 people coming off, and then 100 years later, there's the Tower of Babel. People build a tower to heaven, like, and this city is described as massive kind of thing. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, they just, I mean, well, God could poof people into existence. He clearly, after the flood, must have poofed grass back into existence and other things for the herbivores to eat. And he must have poofed more herbivores so that the carnivores could eat, and so on and so forth. Why not poof more people, while we're poofing things?
Yeah, why not? But, like, that's sort of something that's avoided, that God just solves these problems, because if he just solves these problems, then why have them in the first place? Why not just poof people out of existence and have a flood in the first place? Like, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense if you can do that.
And why? There's so many why bothers, but like if that were what happened, the Bible would say so, right? Or maybe not. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And I would like to change the subject and talk about the moon a little bit if we're done here with this one.
Well, we will get to the moon. I want to give Dr. Hovind a chance to say something here if you wanted to comment on that before we go to the next question.
No, I'd be glad to. I did not realize Brother Anderson was going to be so confrontational about everything. I'll be glad to debate you on how long they were in Egypt if you like to have a debate. I've had 351 debates with atheists. They were in Egypt for 430 years. It does not start with the time they went down there as slaves. You need to do a little more study on that. That's easily answered. The flood was...
Imagine bragging about how many debates you've lost. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, he kind of looks up to Dwayne Gish, who did like 600 debates or something kind of thing. So he wants to beat that. He wants to be the man to do all these debates kind of thing. But really, I mean, his idea of debating is just going through a script of the same stuff over and over ad nauseum. Like, it really is just, he's got nothing new to say whatsoever. It's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
4,400 years ago. So do a little more study, brother. I'll help you if you'd like. You're wrong.
No,
right.
You need to do a little bit more study on that, because it is literally impossible to make any descendant of the person Israel be in Egypt for 430 years based on your chart. So I would love for you to maybe another day make a video where you show how the children of Israel spent 430 years in Egypt according to your chart. I would love to see that, because it's literally impossible.
You really would? I don't think you would love to see it, because then you're going to have to eat crow, brother. Crow doesn't taste good. But that's okay.
Yeah, there's something about, like, when Christians are having an argument and start calling each other brother, it carries a lot of like hostile overtones to me. Am I picking that up correctly, or?
Yeah, it's the Christian love kind of thing, the bless your heart sort of deal. Yeah.
This is pretty. I like the spiciness, but I would love to see both of those videos.
One time, is Abraham the beginning of the children of Israel? Did he go to Egypt? Is Isaac the beginning of Israel? Did he go to Egypt?
Last time I checked, Abraham is not.
Really debate another night, Ben.
Last time I checked, Abraham is not Isaac's son. Last time I checked, Abraham is Jacob's grandpa. Okay, so calling Abraham a child of Israel is absurd. Okay, the children of Israel.
He's the beginning of Israel. He's the beginning of Israel, brother.
Well, so he's a child of Israel.
What happened to you?
All right. Well, all right. We understand there's conflict here. We understand there's conflict here.
Can I make my point?
Well, I think that you've both made a lot of points, and we're going to waste a lot of time on this one. So
I want to say one thing. Okay, calling Abraham the children of Israel is absurd. Abraham is Israel's grandpa, and so the children of Israel have to be, wait for it, children of Israel. That's all.
Yeah, I don't see his point. I don't see their point. I don't see anybody's point in this.
Well, I mean, asshole number one isn't wrong. Abraham is the forefather, not the child. But it doesn't really matter. It can slip of the tongue, the children of Israel all the way back to Abraham. Whatever. It's like, yeah, and Moses was found in a basket. Cool.
Basket,
yeah.
I want to say I'm done.
Okay, well, let's move. We're going to move on to another question.
Wait a minute, brother. Read my lips. Abraham began the whole line of the children of Israel. I believe that's what I said. I did not say he's the children of Israel. He started the whole thing. Well, let's go on to a new topic. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So when we talk about the Earth itself, and we've already brought this up, that modern science will basically say it's about 4.5 billion years old. And I want to bring a little bit of information up on the screen, just to kind of get a general consensus for a moment for our audience's sake. How are they coming up to this number? Well, you can look at an article. There's an article online. Basically, it asks the question. It says, how did scientists calculate the age of the Earth? And I wanted to at least read a few paragraphs from here. I don't know if we can bring that up on the screen or not, but most people, are kind of incredulous that believe the Bible on how they could get to 4.5 billion. People that believe in everything science says, they would say, well, of course, everything science says, that's why we have phones and that's why we have computers and all these different technologies, because science. But if we talk about the age of the Earth specifically, this article talks about how they came up with that calculation. So in this article, it says, and I'm just going to start reading a little bit. Hopefully, they're going to be able to catch up with me on this. But in this article, it's a National Geographic. It says, as advances in chemistry, geology, and physics continue, scientists found a method by which the absolute age or an actual number of years of a rock or mineral sample could be determined. This method is called radiometric dating, and it involves the decay or breakdown of radioactive elements using radiometric dating techniques. It became possible to determine the...
And notice it's absolute age, not relative age that they're going into. So absolute age is exactly how old it is without relative to any other rock or any other source. Oh boy.
Actual age of a sample. So in this article, it describes how they use radiometric dating to determine essentially a rock age. And it also says in this article that one problem with this approach is kind of towards the bottom of the article if you're trying to find it. One problem with this approach to dating rocks and minerals on Earth is the presence of the rock cycle. It also says in this article, it says the oldest rocks that have been found are dated about 3.8 billion years old, though some tiny minerals have been dated at 4.2 billion years. And then pretty much the last paragraph of this, if you scroll all the way down, I think you're still at the top, but if you scroll all the way down pretty much the bottom paragraph, it says to get around the difficulty presented by the rock cycle, scientists have looked elsewhere in the solar system for even older rock samples. They have examined rocks from the moon and from meteorites, neither of which have been altered by the rock cycle. The same techniques of radiometric dating have been used on those rocks. All the data from Earth and beyond has led to an estimated age of 4.5 billion years for our planet. And so this article makes it clear that the way that they've determined the age of the Earth specifically is through radiometric dating. Now, see if you can pull up the geologic column image that I have. It's pretty big, but the geologic column is something that's going to be presented in geology textbooks, and they show all these different layers and they label them all kinds of different things. And specifically, most of them are kind of labeled as a relation to the fossils that are found in that particular layer. Now, this isn't something that can be observed in the world where you can just see all of these different layers stacked up. However, scientists will say that you consistently see these type of fossils in these type of layers, and then they put dates out on the far right as far as how far they date that layer. So you can see, Jurassic, that's a pretty popular one that people may have heard of because of Jurassic Park, and they talk about dinosaurs. And they'll say that's a couple 100 million years ago. And then as you go down this list, it gets all the way to what's considered the Cambrian column, and that's specifically where they theorize that life began. And from an evolutionary perspective, they say these primitive life forms came into existence in the Cambrian period.
Well,
pre-Cambrian.
Pre-Cambrian. Yeah. That's not possible.
Yeah, details.
But yeah, he's basically laying out all of the stuff. So I presume Hovind's going to go on and there's no such thing as a geologic column kind of thing. But
yeah,
and they slowly evolved.
It's coming.
Yeah, that's why I was chuckling. I'm like, oh, Ken's favorite fucking thing, the geologic column.
Over millions of years into the life forms we have today. Each one of these layers being dated through radiometric dating. At the bottom of this list, they're going to have, according to that article, they're going to say the bottom layers they found were 3.8 billion years. So I'm taking a minute to set this up, but I want people to understand where I'm coming from. The bottom layer is 3.8, and they theorize, well, some of these layers may have been destroyed through the rock cycle, so we can't necessarily rely upon that date. So they took samples from the moon specifically and other meteorite rocks, sampled them, and they got about the same number actually as the rock layers in the Earth. And so they came up with an estimated age of 4.5 billion years. Now, I would say that all of these fossil layers were clearly laid down in the flood, which would be about 4,800, 4,700 years ago. Obviously, that was really contentious. Some people might say 4,400. I don't really care for the sake of this discussion this evening, okay? But obviously, it was not 100 million years ago or 400 million years ago. So that would make this entire geologic column dating specifically wrong. And what I would say is I don't understand how, if radiometric dating is wrong on all of these top layers, why it wouldn't also be wrong on the bottom layer. Now, that's kind of just my view on this. And I want to get both of your opinion here. Dr. Hovind, is there any sense?
If it's wrong on the top layer, why would it be wrong on the bottom? Is it wrong on the top layer?
Well, that's his presupposition, is it?
Yeah.
It has to be wrong in the flood layers true. Because, the Bible says otherwise. It doesn't show
the flood. Yeah.
Sense where the Earth itself is 4.5 billion years old, or do you kind of just think that's like a made up number? What is kind of your opinion on how they're coming to these conclusions.
Thank you, sir. First place, there is no such thing as a geologic column. It does not exist.
There it
the Earth
is.
has layers. There's no question. If the top layer is younger, I keep asking them, I debate these atheists all the time. I say, guys, if the top layer is younger, where did it come from? Did it come from outer space? Moving it from one place to another does not change the age. I've got a coffee cup made out of clay.
Okay, so the age of something we date from when the rocks formed, and there's a number of processes that can form the rocks. So these sort of rock formations and the things that form in them, like, so if there is magma comes out, it cools and makes igneous rock, it'll date it to when it came out of the Earth's crust, right? So out of the mantle as magma and came lava. So we're not dating, like, I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, he's going with that old, tired old saw of all matter on Earth is the same age. Because, you know, whether you believe in the Big Bang and it was all produced in the Big Bang, which it wasn't. We needed, you know, stellar nucleosynthesis to create several of the more interesting atoms that we use for, you know, existing with. But whatever model you use, everything was created at the same time.
Right.
But we know that that's not actually true. But we're not talking about the absolute age of the specific atoms.
Right.
Some of which are considerably younger than the Big Bang because they needed to be forged in the hearts of supernovas and shit. But everything on Earth is roughly the same age on Earth. But, you know, Kent has been caught up in this over and over. We're not talking about the atoms. We're talking about the structures the atoms make. Like with lava coming out of a volcano. Once it starts to harden and turn into rocks instead of magma, those are new rocks. They are as old as that eruption, even though the matter was already there.
And so we have a number of ways that we can determine, and they sort of say, oh, but you don't know the amount of parent element. And it doesn't matter, because what we're measuring is the proportion of parent element to daughter element. Right. So say take something like potassium argon, for instance. Okay, just as an example. Argon's a gas. So when that rock forms, or the crystals form that has the potassium in it, it does not form with any argon. It can't form with any argon because argon's a gas. It will just escape. There is never any argon in it. So we know that it will have a certain amount. Now, that amount of potassium can vary, right? It can vary highly. But the thing is that it will always decay at a regular rate, which is the half-life of potassium. And we can tell from the proportion of potassium to argon how long it has been decaying. Because the proportion will tell us, you know, it didn't have any argon to start with. It now has argon trapped in those crystals. It will tell us how long. Same with what is it? Uranium lead, I think it is, with zircon crystals.
Yeah, zircons. Yeah, because when zircons form, they won't allow any lead into their matrix. So if there's lead in there, it has to be from radioactive decay.
Right. It's just cool the way zircons form. You cannot have lead there. They just will not form if that's the case. So when we have zircons with lead in it, as Ember said, it comes from the radioactive decay of uranium. It doesn't matter that we don't know how much in total, because we can look at how much uranium is there, how much lead is there, and say, okay, the proportions are this and this. Like, so if there's half, right, the amount of, just say these equal amounts of uranium and lead, we know that that has been decaying for the half-life, right? Which is the amount it takes for half the molecules to decay. So if there's equal amounts, we know that's been half. If there's 50% ratio of lead to uranium, we know that it's only been decaying for half of the half-life. We can work this out. It doesn't matter how much in total there is. We can work it out from the proportions. That's how it works.
Yeah, and that's before we get the comments, yes, there's a long decay chain from uranium to lead. It is a bit more complicated. We're just
yeah. We're just
trying to keep
make
it
simple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but the whole point is that it does not matter that it does not matter that but you know, this is sort of the way that we date it. So when those zircons form is what we're dating from. All of the uranium caught in those zircons, that's what we're dating from, not when the uranium was fused in the, you know, because uranium and other heavy elements is only fused together in supernova. Naturally, I mean, I think we fused together other stuff. So that's not what we're measuring. We're measuring when it was caught in those crystals, when those crystals formed and caught the uranium in them. That's it.
2 years ago. Here's a fossil fish. It's now on top. So this fish has to be less than 2 years old because it's on top of my coffee cup. The geologic column is stupid. It does not exist anywhere. But that's the Bible for the atheist. As far as carbon dating, it doesn't work. It never has worked.
He didn't say carbon dating. He said radiometric dating. No one's using carbon dating to date like the Cretaceous period. Nobody's doing that.
Yeah,
because it
and
doesn't
also,
work.
If he knew anything about paleontology, being a doctor of dinos, as he claims to be, he'd understand that when a living organism takes some of the ground and moves it, that's called bioturbation, and that changes how we calculate things.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
know
that's
why it's
accounted
going
for.
to carbon. Well, carbon dating, you can basically talk about carbon dating like, you know, say mummies or, you know, organic material sort of that's about, what is it, about 100 and something thousand years old? Because the half-life is 55,000, I think.
57,000 and some change.
Yeah, so you can sort of talk about carbon dating back to, I think about 100 and something thousand. Oh God,
50,000 is about the limit for accuracy, but it can go back 100,000 ish. If you don't mind the numbers getting a little bit more wonky.
Well, yeah, it kind of, it's 500 to 50,000. Yeah, so it kind of, the longer you go back and the less like sort of atoms you have to work with of these elements, the less isotopes you have, the more inaccurate it becomes. So they'll always attach an accuracy to it, like plus or minus X amount, because you know, science is precise and it won't just say exactitudes. So, but you know, nobody goes and says, "Hey, I found this you know, bone from the Cretaceous. I'm going to do carbon dating to measure it." No, wrong, bad, not good, not good.
Based on some assumptions, here's the geologic column, which was invented in 1830. It doesn't exist anywhere except the textbook. Top layers. Here's an analogy people understand.
It does. The textbook is just telling you how they describe these layers. Like, this is the thing. It's a reification fallacy, essentially. So the reification is you're treating the map like a place. And that's what he's doing. He's saying, hey, it's just in textbooks. No, it's not just in textbooks. The textbooks are describing something in real life that we can see and do tests on.
Yeah. It's very much basically what Kent is saying is that every map we have of the Earth is flat, therefore the Earth must be flat.
Actually, I think somebody in our chat said that, to be honest with you.
Well,
sorry, Missing Mod. I had to call you out. I called you out. No, lots of love for Missing Mod. She doesn't deserve to be hassled that much. You know, just as much as everybody else. But yeah, like yeah, it's kind of saying, hey, well, you've got this map. It's just lines on paper. That doesn't mean that the place exists. You know, you've got a map of Chicago. That doesn't mean the place exists. Well, it's describing the place, like the place exists independently. And you're sort of, Kent's claim that the geologic column only exists on paper is ludicrous. Like, this is just so silly. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't pick on you. You've had enough of being picked on. I do apologize.
If you walked into a room and you found a candle burning on a table, and I asked you the very simple question, when was it lit? How long has it been burning? You say, I don't know. Well, let's do some science. Let's measure the candle. So we measure it. We get a micrometer that goes down to 400 bazillionths of an inch, okay? And we find out that candle is 7 inches tall. And nobody argues. We agree the candle is 7 inches tall. Then we're going to measure how fast it's burning. So we get an Olympic stopwatch and we time it. We get it down. It's burning 1 inch per hour. We got 2 facts nobody argues about. It's 7 inches tall. It's burning 1 inch an hour. When was it lit? Well, now you can't possibly tell me unless you go into assumptions instead of science.
No, because you're missing one important factor. And someone pointed out to me, I don't remember who it was. It was probably one of my subscribers actually pointed out. But yeah, we also have the wax that has been melted. Mm-hmm. And if we know the rate at which the wax has been melted, right, we can figure out how long the candle's been burning. If we have a certain amount of, like, if we know the percentage of wax to intact candle and we light the candle, then we can tell how long it's been burning from the amount of solid candle to the amount of wax.
Yeah, well, I mean, and then, you know, someone like Kent will just walk into the room and be like, well, you know, that candle was created with half of the wax already melted off.
Right.
'Cause, as one does. It's just so beyond absurd to me, this whole created 6,000 years ago thing. It just, yes, the God created the universe with hundreds, millions, billions of stars already pre-supernovaed. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, you're missing one important factor there, that we have a daughter element that tells us how long it's been burning. That's what you're missing. And that's why this is false analogies. And Kent's full of false analogies. He's full of, oh, if you think about this, yeah, if you think about it and take away a very, very important part of it, your analogy works.
How tall was it? I don't know. Has it always burned at the same rate? I don't know. We know.
Oh, now he cares about rates.
We know that the half-life is a constant rate. Our most accurate atomic clocks are based upon that, on the decay rate being exactly half. Like, it is scary how accurate that is when you have a substance exactly half will decay at a certain rate. That's it. Like, you can't, you know, it is so accurate.
Oh, there are things that affect the decay of carbon-14. We know there are things, you don't know how much was in it when it started, and it doesn't have to just be carbon. It could be potassium, argon, rubidium, strontium, lead-208, lead-206. All of them have the very same assumptions. You don't know how much was in it when it started. You don't know it's always been the same rate. You don't know it's never been contaminated. No potassium, none of these.
Yep, we know that zircons haven't been contaminated with lead. We do know the rate. How tall was it? It doesn't matter. We're doing percentages. So if we have the percentage of wax to the candle, we know how long it's been burned. Like, all of this is understood. Kent, this is the thing. Your analogy doesn't work. I wish he would give up these analogies, because they're terrible. Like, even other Christians don't like his analogies because they are terrible.
Dates they're throwing out would hold up in an honest court of law. They date the layers by the fossils they contain, which is stupid. It's circular reasoning. They date the fossil by the layer and the layer by the fossil. That's how they do it. And they admit it. And they say, we don't have a better way to do it. They're arguing in a circle. I got tons of, my video number 7 covers all that for probably 45 minutes if you want to take the whole program. Go to drdino.com.
Yeah, so...
Buy my DVDs.
Buy my DVDs. Yeah, so just in the chat, I don't care who you think are Christians and who are Catholics and whatever. I don't care. Anybody that claims to worship Jesus as a God is a Christian, as far as I'm concerned. I don't care. They say you're not Christian. You say they're not Christian. I don't have a horse in the race. I don't care. Okay, it just doesn't worry me. Like, I haven't figured out a way to figure out who's the real Christian, so I don't bother. Until you can get a criteria that I can actually figure out who's the real Christian, that I can test and say, hey, yes, I can be certain these people are the real Christians, you know, and not just read the Bible because they're saying exactly the same thing. Some kind of objective measurement of how we figure out who's the real Christian. You're all Christians, as far as I'm concerned. because I'm not going to offend them by saying they're not Christians. I'm not going to offend you by saying you're not Christian. You're all Christians. So this whole thing of the most accurate, best and accurate dating mocks, I believe he's talking about quickly, right? And ever since this sort of reeks of quote mining, right?
Mm-hmm.
This reeks of quote mining. So you can feel like ever since William Smith at the beginning of the 19th century, fossils have been and still are the best and most accurate method of dating and correlating the rocks in which they occur. No, radiometric dating is. But at a quick glance, yes, it's very quick and it's very accurate because we have index fossils that tell us what date. We then go and test them and find out we're right. Okay, it's not like we rely on that. It's not like we sort of lean on that. But what we do is we say, hey, these index fossils are there, and those have always shown to be reliable. That's the thing. When they stop being so damn reliable, we'll stop saying it's not accurate. I will stop saying it is accurate. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, it says a lot that he has to go back to 1983 to find a quote that says what he wants it to say.
Yeah. I mean, and Hovind's the master of outdated literature. I mean, he still uses a definition of science from, 1901 or something. And people defend him and say, no, that's not what he's saying. Yeah, he literally keeps on saying that science means knowledge. It's about what we know. That is not the definition of science. It hasn't been the definition of science for hundreds of years. Stop using that definition. Stop it. It's bad.
His son Eric does the same thing.
Of course he does. Because then he can say, well, the Bible is scientific because we know that's true. It's like, no, that's not what science means. No. But, and what's frustrating is you pull him up on it and then his bunch of supporters will go, oh, that's not what he said. That is exactly what he said. Like, come on now.
DINO, they get the whole seminar for $50, 18 hours. And I cover it in great detail, including there is no geologic column at all. It does not exist. It's so dumb to say the layers are different. Layers form sideways as the moon pulls the water up and down with the tide. The water's rushing in and out of the tidal bump, called tidal pumping. That's what made all the layers in 1 year.
I want to ask.
Yeah, so the layers are sideways and then somehow got tilted all around the world. I mean, you can drive through the American West and you'll see layers and layers and layers, and it'll be tilted thusly, sometimes much higher, sometimes a little lower. But yeah, the uplift is evident. But apparently they were all made sideways, and actually they were knocked down somehow. Yes, that makes more sense.
How do geologic folds occur? Like where it's folded over kind of thing. How does tidal pumping do that? Asking for a friend.
Right.
It seems really weird. And plus then you have that thing that Beamsy brought up, which was tuff and tuffite. So tuff is it's spelled TUFF, it's called tuff, and it's basically rock that's formed when volcanic ash is compressed and subject to heat, basically. Now, volcanic ash. Oh, excuse me. Sorry, I didn't mention I had a sore throat. I'm still getting over things, but I'm okay. I'm okay. I'll just have some water. Excuse me. Tuff is formed from the volcanic ash. Now, if water hits volcanic ash, it does not form tuff. It forms a mud substance that then turns into shale.
Yeah.
Right. So tuff and tuffite, which is the compressed stone version, it cannot be subject to water, or else tuff won't exist at that point. Like it cannot. Yeah. So that just showed like your explanation cannot be correct. And this was put to Hovind, and he basically said, oh, but it doesn't mean the entire world was underwater for that whole time. No, but if you're saying the layers were put there, there's a layer of tuff, then a layer of, something else like some other sedimentary rock, sandstone, and then a layer of tuff. You're saying those layers were not laid down over billions of years. They were put there, all of them, by the flood. Yet those tough layers still exist, and it completely proves you wrong. And he just ignores it. He just says, oh, no, it was dry at one point.
It grew on the ark or something.
Yeah.
It was a really big boat. Actually, when I was little and I was trying to sort out all this Bible stuff and try to make sense of it, it dawned on me at one point that if you threw out the measurements of the ark that are in the Bible, and you took the story about how a world was about to be destroyed, so Noah was tasked with putting all these animals and other species and things on this ship to save them. From a certain point of view, the Earth itself is a spaceship. It's moving through space. We don't have control of the helm, but it's a spaceship, and it's got all these life forms on it, perhaps as a refuge, something in the past, maybe another solar system got blown up. It seemed like a compelling idea when I was 5.
Yeah. But this cannot be the case. Like this whole thing of the flood laid down the layers, no. And you have things like varves, for instance, which are annual varves, which are these layers formed when the tide goes in and out. We know what they look like. We know what it looks like when water lays down layers, and the layers of the earth are not like this. We know what varves are. They're not varves. And especially, like, you can't have tough and toughite varves. It's impossible. So, I don't know what to tell you. It's just wrong. And I mean, Aaron Ra does a great series on, all the reasons why the flood couldn't have happened. For every single reason under the sun, and they're all valid. It's ridiculous how many things against it. Thank you so much, Robin. 1 readership. I'll find out who you sniped this time. You are Victoria. Bam, bam. Take that. From Robin with love. Oh, and that reminds me, I've got a thingamawhat's, don't I? I was meant to give these away. Just being sick kind of threw me off, and I should be able to give away the freebies kind of thing, which I should do, I think.
You should.
Yeah. All right. You ready? Bam!
There it is.
Yeah. Deviant Outcast gets a readership. Speed Romans gets a readership. Karen Kinzer gets a readership. Tiny Pink Penguin gets a readership. And Binge Thinker gets a readership. I was aiming for Missing Mod, but I don't have Robin's aim. I really don't. So
I mean, Missing Mod, it's you that's missing Mod. That's it's a meta name that way.
Yes, I missed Missing Mod.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I should have got Robin to do it. Oh, you're so ready. Okay, well that's well, there you go.
Missing Mod was protected.
Yeah. All right. Well, I obviously have no idea who subscribed to me, so it's a bit of a terrible situation. Oh dear. Well, that's good. I'm happy then. That's fine. That's fine. Oh yeah, that's me.
Custom emojis for everyone.
Yeah, use your emojis. Use the bonk. Use the bonk on Stony. Do that. There's a bonk there for you. Okay.
I want to ask a specific question. When we talk about radiometric dating.
Oh boy, and left-handed Jedi, because they are just they have to overdo it. Okay. Left-handed Jedi, thank you so much. Sydney Raptor, Simos Funk, Sabracadabro, Uncle Charlie, and Gods Are People Too. All gift them membership. Congratulations. Winner, Chicken Digger, and Left-Handed Jedi. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Just fantastic. God, we're going to unlock another emoji. I'm going to have to think something up. If you have any ideas of emojis, please do throw it in the comments and let me know. I need ideas. I can probably come up with some, but it's always good to get feedback and stuff. So just throw a comment if you've got an idea for an emoji. Just comment it, and I definitely will see it. But thank you so much, Left-Handed Jedi. You are a scholar and a saint. Thank you so much.
Would you agree that radiometric dating, the logic behind it seems legitimate, Dr. Hovind, even though the numbers are off? Like, do you think it could give relative ages as far as something being older or younger, albeit it doesn't necessarily give an accurate age specifically, or do you just think it's not reliable in any sense?
Well, you can demonstrate. They will test samples that are still alive and get ancient numbers. They know it doesn't work, but that's all they've got. And they want billions of years to make their frog turn to a prince. They have to have billions of years or their whole evolution theory looks stupid. You can tell them all.
And it all comes back to evolution. That's his big bugbear. Like, he doesn't really care about, But that's not why we think the Earth is billions of years old. That isn't why. Like, geology has been around since before evolution. It has. You're muted, Ems.
Curses. I was having noisy background and I forgot to unmute.
I believe. Yeah. I think it would probably be the best statement ever made. I think
it's true.
It's amazing. Yeah.
But yeah, we don't need biology. We don't need fossils to tell any of these things. We don't even need radiometric dating. We can look at the layers on Mars. We can go look at the Miranda, the moon of Uranus that two moonlets smashed together, broke apart, and recombined, and now we can see all the layers, the insides on the outside, and there's layers. Like, we don't even need any active biology to see how old shit is, because there's shit where there's no biology, and we can see it's very, very, very old. Entirely geologically.
It looks stupid with billions of years, okay? But it's real stupid without billions of years. And whether it's potassium, argon, rubidium, strontium, lead 208, there's about 9 different ways they do this. Carbon 14, carbon 13.
Yeah, and we cross-correlate them.
Mm-hmm. Always check your work when you can.
Yep.
Changing to carbon 12. Understand the half-life situation. There's so many things that affect it. It is a useless method. They should throw them all out. None of them matter.
Pastor Anderson, when it comes to the Earth being estimated at 4.5 billion years old, is that something that you think is true in any sense? Or do you think that that's not a very reliable number?
So let me start by going back to the question that you asked Dr. Hovind about the geologic column, and then you talked about, the radiometric dating that gives the 4.5 billion number. Well, first of all, that's a conflation of two totally separate issues, because no one is using radiometric dating to date those layers. As Dr. Hovind pointed out, they use the fossils to date the layers and the layers to date the fossils, and they will readily admit that. Secular textbooks will say that.
Yeah, we do use radiometric to check those dates as well. Like, it's not like we just go, oh, well, fossils found there, it's definitely this old. No, we say, hey, that's the probable age it would be. And it keeps working out that it keeps working out that it is accurate from radiometric dating. Like, it's not like we end there.
Yeah, like there's a lot of places, even right here on Earth, where we have recovered a shit ton of fossils over the centuries, but fossils are rare. Despite the sheer number, that's all human excavation all around the world for hundreds of years, and we have, a couple of warehouses full of fossils. It's great, but they're rare. They're still rare. So there are places where you're going to dig, and there's no fossils to date the layers by. You have to do something else to tell how old it is,
Yeah. But it turns out that where we see a fossil, it's uncannily accurate to the dated layers. Like, that's the thing. But they don't say, hey, it's precise. They'll say, hey, this is in this layer, basically, which can be, 500 million years kind of thing. Like, it's not like they go, okay, we know with any accuracy. It's just, it turns out that it's very accurate. Like, sorry, but that's not how we found it was accurate. And yes, Missing Mod, if I have a flat Earth emoji, it's going to be the Great 8 one, and I don't
Hell
think
yeah.
you're going to like that. Yeah, man, I'm a massive fan of Terry Pratchett, and so yeah, I love Terry Pratchett. Rest in peace, Terry Pratchett.
Sir Terry, good shit.
Because of the fact that radiometric dating does not work on sedimentary rocks, okay? Radiometric dating only works on igneous rocks. And so all fossils are found in sedimentary rocks. There are no fossils in igneous rocks. There are no fossils in metamorphic rocks. If you use radiometric dating on a metamorphic rock, you're just dating when the metamorphosis happened. And if you use it on an igneous rock, you can actually get an age of that rock, okay? So radiometric dating is for igneous rocks, not sedimentary rocks.
Yeah, I mean, you can find out when that rock formed. That's the thing. That's the rub. You can find out when the rock formed, and that's fine. I don't, and so therefore you can find out when the layer was laid down. So the age of that layer. That's the thing. The age of the layer isn't the age of the particles. It's the age of the when it was laid down. So when it formed. I don't get the problem with that.
Yeah, it's a really old principle in geology, the rule of superposition, that a layer will be younger than the layer it sits on top of, because of course it is. If it were older, it would, how'd it get on top of it? How'd you get younger dirt underneath? It just, it's really obvious. But this is fundamentally what these two are arguing with. They're saying, no, the younger, the lower layers are younger, or they're all the same age, or what? No, it's a very simple law of superposition, and it's based. And they're like, no, we can't have that because it's catastrophic to my case.
Yeah, because the Bible has to be true, no matter what. No matter what evidence we find, no matter how rigorous we are, no matter how reliable the methodology is, it has to be untrue because Bible. It's not a reason. It's not a reason for it to be untrue. It's just your belief in the Bible. Sorry.
And so it really has nothing to do with that geologic column. And as far as carbon dating goes, no one is claiming that carbon dating goes back millions of years. That's a common misconception, of course, and I'm sure Dr. Hovind knows this. That's why he brought up the other radiometric dating methods, because carbon dating is only somewhat accurate back to around like 2000 BC, where they can actually calibrate it with historical events. And even people who would try to push it back further, which again, could be falling prey to the fallacy that I brought up earlier about extending the trend beyond the data points. They might push it back 20,000 years or 30,000 years or something like that. Nobody's going to say that carbon dating goes back millions of years, and radiometric dating is therefore not relevant to the so-called geologic column, because as you said, obviously this isn't some object out of nature that anybody can even go look at. But I personally have no issue if they're doing all these different radiometric dating methods with all different elements.
So he correctly noted that carbon dating has a limit, and it's fairly recent. He was a little bit off on how far back it goes, but whatever. And then he said, because carbon dating is useless in the millions of years range, all radiometric dating is useless.
Right.
What?
That doesn't make sense. Yeah. I don't get that either. I don't get what he's trying to say about radiometric dating. But I don't think it matters to him so much. I don't think he cares, because he can say, hey, yeah, it's dated to whatever age, and that's the age that God created it 6,000 years ago at.
Different things on the moon, meteorites, things on Earth, and everything kind of seems to be pointing to this 4.5 billion number. I have absolutely no issue with that number, because I have no issue with God creating a 30-year-old man in the Garden of Eden, or a 100-year-old tree, or a 500-year-old tree, or a 4.6 billion-year-old sun. Supposedly the sun is a type of star that would have a lifespan of around 10 billion years. So if God created Adam in the prime of life, if he created trees and animals in the prime of life, why would it be hard to believe that he created the sun in the prime of its life, that, he created a 4.6 billion-year-old sun, a 4.6 billion-year-old Earth 6,300 years ago, because everything has a parent age. He created a mature creation. And I believe that doesn't just go for Adam or a tree. It goes for everything.
Okay. What about you, Dr. Hovind?
So it doesn't matter to him. It doesn't matter, because he can say, hey, yeah, it looks 4.6 billion years old.
Random, but I don't know, something in the way he phrased that, it made me think back to the Babylonian creation myths that the Hebrews copied from. if we're going by holy texts, then sure, Yahweh created the universe, fantastic. But Marduk created the universe 1,500 years before Yahweh did. So
right. Right. Well, I mean, yeah, they would just say that all of those religions were wrong, basically, and their one is right. You know, the earlier ones just got it wrong. That they presumably
reasons.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you think that there could be any kind of truth to the apparent age of things we find in the solar system of the universe, that the sun is in its life cycle of billions of years old, and so maybe perhaps it gives some kind of an apparent age that it's that old, or what is your kind of view on that?
Well, I know, I agree. Adam was a full-grown man. He could walk, dog, get married, name all the animals first day. You know, he was a full-grown man. And Eve was created out of a rib, a full-grown woman. So yeah, it has to be. It would, to us, it would appear that it had age. To Adam, it looked all brand new to him. Here's a tree with apples already growing on it. Unless God put into his mind that, hey, this has to go through this system of planting a seed and growing a tree. But God probably already pre-programmed his brain to know a lot of things. He could walk and talk, you know, first day. So yeah, I think certainly there would be, to us, it would appear like an age. The sun is burning an awful lot of hydrogen. And
does he hear what he's saying? Like God just created Adam with the ability to walk and talk and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, and Gigi, I got to, I got to agree. Just casually saying that a woman came from his rib, it's just,
yeah, like he's just taking all this magic stuff with no basis for it and just assuming it makes sense. But also the whole thing with things being created with age. I want to go back to the dead stars, the supernovas. He's effectively saying that God created dinosaur fossils in the ground because it's the same thing. It's stellar fossils in the sky, you know? If they're created pre-dead, pre-buried, and pre-fossilized, then your God is lying to you. Your God is a liar. Good job, Ken.
Can I just point out the irony? And I'm going to put an irony in chat. The irony of saying, radiometric dating is a stupid way to date things. It doesn't work. It's got no scientific basis. And this woman came from a rib.
Mm-hmm.
And God magicked up this tree with apples already on it. And that magicked up Adam with all the knowledge that he, like, come on, like I get you believe that, but putting it in the same sentence of radiometric dating is so unscientific and doesn't work. By the way, magic man creates, I hate to straw man and stuff, but seriously, you can't put those things in consecutive sentences and expect to be taken seriously.
It's not even a straw man in this case. Like you if you try your hardest to create a satirical straw man, just pure snark of Kent's argument, you will not be able to construct an argument more ridiculous than Kent's actual argument.
Yeah. He's like a parody of a creationist. I mean, if somebody said to me that all this time Kent Hovind was a parody of creationism, I would say, well done, good job. I would actually believe it, because holy crap, the worst arguments, this is the kind of thing that people would put up in order to mock creationists. I don't know.
Yeah.
And making helium and lithium and other elements, and I think those are necessary. Some of those are necessary for life down here. So I think God made it all planned perfectly, and the sun burning up a huge amount of fuel every second would have a limited life expectancy of whatever it is. So yeah, it was created to us. It would look like it's in the middle of its life cycle. So I think Brother Anderson and I can agree on that. It would have to be, but to us, the appearance of age. 17 times, well, they look at the stars and see them producing light, and when they look at it through a spectrograph, it produces what's called a redshift, the Doppler effect. And they say, wow, the stars are moving away from us. And I would agree. It appears that all the stars are moving away from Earth. All the known stars I'm aware of are producing a redshift. So they say, wow, all the stars are moving away. I agree.
Yes.
They'll say, see, that proves it all used to be together in one.
Except it's not really the stars, it's the galaxies, and some are moving towards us, but on the whole, they're all moving away from us.
Yeah, and he's using that perspective fallacy. Like, they're all moving away from us because Earth is in the center, because we're so important. That's our point of view, you fuck nugget.
Well, yeah, but I for a base level, it's fine for a base level understanding. It's just, everything's moving further away from everything. That's the thing. All the galaxies are moving further away from each other as well. So, and not all of them. Like, there are, like, we're going to hit, I think, the one constellation at some point.
Andromeda. In fact, there's
Andromeda,
a study that, or not study, article that was investigating whether we're already exchanging stars, even though it's it's 2 million light years away. But it's so Andromeda's bigger than the Milky Way, and Milky Way is freaking big, so there's a lot of gravity involved.
Yeah.
So they are already I mean, of course, they're gravitationally interacting. They're pulling towards each other, but yeah, it's a fascinating concept. This merger coming up.
Fascinating, a bit scary, but it's not going to worry us. But I guess it's just one of those things. It's just what the universe does. Universe just be universing,
Yeah, I mean, it makes me. I want to see stuff in the future. Like that's one of my big grumps about being mortal is like I want to see what that looks like.
Yeah. Earth is on an outer spiral arm, so it's sort of tucked away in an outer spiral arm of the Milky Way.
And it exploded. Oh, it doesn't prove any such thing. His data points are right. They could have started moving away yesterday and give the same redshift. 17 times in the Bible, it says God stretched out the heavens. If you read the Bible, God made the earth first, and then he made the stars a couple days later.
Why would we take our scientific knowledge from the Bible? That's the question. That's essentially where you're getting your scientific knowledge, and then you're basically trying to conform everything to this preconceived notion that the Bible is absolutely literally right.
Yeah, and that stretched out the heavens one, that's been done to death. It drives me fucking crazy. First of all, it doesn't actually say that. In the original Hebrew, it says it's something like hammered out the firmament, not stretched out the heavens, but whatever. It's definitely past tense, though. It's a thing that God previously did, not a thing that is still happening today. And also the heavens is not the same as the cosmos. And also, we don't have any reason to think anything in that book is actually true. Like, so we've got layer upon layer. We've got a whole geological column of fucking nonsense here.
Yeah, you kind of have to do some real heavy work to make that mean expansion of the universe, like, the constant expansion of the universe. But like a lot of people do a real bunch of heavy work to sort of fit them in, and it's kind of like Barnum statements, like the prophecies of Notre Dame. So you can kind of make these statements fit wherever you need.
And then it says he stretched them out into place. So of course they could be billions of light years away and be 6,000 years old. So it's a matter of they're confusing a light year. A light year is a distance. It's not a time. It's a distance that light travels in a year today at 186,242 miles per second or whatever it is. Okay, so I think that it would certainly have an appearance of age, but still was created just exactly like the Bible says in 6 days, literal 24-hour days.
Yeah, and that's where Kent's basically going over to Stephen Anderson's side and going, well, that has an appearance of age, right? Because that's what he said. He made it 6,000 years ago, but he made it with an appearance of age, which is what Stephen Anderson's entire argument is. Like, so if he did that for stars, why not do that for the geologic column? And I hate to be arguing Stephen Anderson's side here, but he has the stronger position, as weird as that is. Just sort of saying, hey, God could have created everything with apparent age, and that's what we're seeing, is a stronger argument than, nah, I don't believe these dating methods and these evolutionary things and these things because Bible. It's a stronger position.
Yeah, I mean, it stretched out the heavens for fun. The Quran says the same thing. Therefore, Allah's true. Whatever. Nonsense.
Yeah.
In the Ten Commandments.
Sorry, do you have something else to say?
Oh, no.
Okay. Yeah, it's mind numbing. It's pretty bad.
Wrote on a rock with his finger. In 6 days, the Lord made heaven and earth. Could not be more clear.
I agree with that, and I think that's something that's hard to disagree with. I believe the closest star is approximated to be 4 light years away. So if
4.2, I think isn't it Sirius? What's the closest star? Is it Sirius B? I think.
No, it's Alpha Centauri at 4.3, I believe.
Oh yeah, Alpha Centauri C, Proxima Centauri at 4.2. Yep. Yeah. I knew it was 4.2. How did I know it was 4.2? That's so weird. And you're
Stuff
definitely better
lodges
with
in your head.
astronomy than me. Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. Wish it could stop.
That's true. Let's just assume that that's accurate, an accurate estimate. That would mean that Adam would have had to wait 4 years to see the first star if God didn't either A, speed up the process by which the starlight was able to be appearing on that fourth day of creation, or that he created it in a mature state where the photons are already traveling there. Is that something you would kind of agree with, Dr. Hovind?
Yeah. Well, again, God made the stars, and he made them to be lights on the earth. So he could make the light in transit. He could make the star and the light at the same time. My God can do anything. So I want to wait to watch the movie when we get to heaven, or DVD or whatever they use up there. But
that is the worst explanation for anything. Well, I know my God did it because my God's great, and I'm going to watch how he did it when I get to heaven, and that's it. I mean, talk about a lame duck explanation.
Magic it all, hand wave it away. Also, I have to point out, Uncle Charlie just corrected both of us. The sun is the closest star.
Correct. Yes. You are technically correct. The best kind of correct.
Damn right.
Yes, you are correct. And technically its name is Sol, so I'm going to get even more technical on you.
Yeah.
But yes, you are correct. The Sol star is the closest star. Wow.
Proof of the soul.
I've just been punked by my own chat. It's a weird feeling, but
well, I mean, that's why we collect the smartest people into the community that we can, because we like to learn too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Uncle Charlie's not wrong. Not wrong.
God made the earth first, and then he made the stars and stretched them out into place. So yeah, Adam could see them first day.
And from you, Pastor Anderson, that's pretty much kind of how you view these things as well. Is that true?
Well, I think that there's a very fundamental difference between Dr. Hovind's view and my view, because he believes that there's all this evidence that the earth is young. And I'm saying that I believe God created the earth because the Bible says so, and that he created it about 6,300 years ago because the Bible says so. But no, I believe that, just scientifically looking at it, it looks old because he created a mature earth. And that's a pretty big difference, saying that it doesn't appear billions of years old, or that there's not evidence that it's billions of years old. And I'm saying that is what it looks like. Now, one thing I want to bring up is the moon, because the moon is covered in a tremendous amount of craters, and these craters are huge. And there's absolutely no way that the moon received all of those craters in the last 6,300 years. There's just absolutely no way that all of that has happened during that.
So he's right, but he's getting there the wrong way. That he's using an argument from incredulity, and I hate it.
Yeah. Well, yes, but like the chances of those craters. I mean, again, he's falling victim to his own thing that he was saying. Hey, you're using the data from nowadays and projecting it backwards and forwards. But yeah, it's almost impossible for that amount of meteorites to strike the moon within that amount of time, like 6,000 years. Yeah, I kind of agree. However, you don't know that for sure, right? You don't know if there were a lot more meteorites striking the moon in days gone by. So, but yeah, I kind of see his point. It's highly unlikely that the moon would get all those craters in a few thousand years.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the earlier proofs back before we had the geologic column and radiometric dating and all that stuff, when scholars only had, natural philosophy to look at to try to figure out the age of things. And they'd say, they'd point to the craters on the moon, and they'd say, look at the ridiculous amount of craters on this world right next door. Surely the Earth must have been pummeled an identical, if not greater amount, being the greater body. This is a tremendous amount of time, and all the more time for the fact that Earth's natural processes have worn away the crater, so we have the appearance of continuous land. Like, the fact that the moon has so many craters, that's a proof from back in the old days, before we had most of modern physics. And it's still there. It's incredible to think of how much time that represents.
Right.
It's a palimpsest. There's craters within craters within craters up there. It's just mind-blowing.
Yep.
Time. And so, therefore, when God created the moon, it already had all those impact craters already on it, aside from the few that have happened since then. But I'm talking about the vast majority of those craters, and certainly all of the giant craters that you see on the moon.
And God
did not happen in the last
trick you.
6,300 years. And so
Well, yeah, and that brings up that question: why create all of this stuff with these processes, producing them in order to fool you into thinking that the Earth is 4.6 billion years old and not 6,000 as you claim? Like, it's just such a weird thing to do. It's so weird. Like, what's the point? I don't get the point.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
The central question. Like, not could God do it? Does it negate that whole God can't tell a lie thing when he's scattering lies all over the cosmos to try to fool us? But what is the motive for trying to fool us? What does he gain by pretending that he doesn't exist and then writing a book telling us that he exists? It's like, what is going on here?
And not only that, but he wants you to believe he exists, but shows and creates things like he didn't create them 6,000 years. That's a weird way to convince somebody that you created everything 6,000 years ago by making them seem a lot older. I don't get that chain of logic. I wish someone could explain that to me. I don't get it.
The Lord works in mysterious ways, and no mortal can understand the mind of God. So,
get stuff.
Stop asking questions that destroy the case.
I'm sorry. It's my major fault. Yeah.
How dare you, you blasphemous heathen!
I've had since birth.
What's that word? It'll come to me later, probably, maybe.
Therefore, the moon has the appearance of being billions of years old because, it had to have gone through all the processes and been impacted all of those times to have that appearance.
He could just make the leap to say, hey, it is actually billions of years old. I just make that tiny little leap to say,
what?
Well, yeah.
What if Muhammad did split the moon and all the craters are from the debris when he split the moon?
Right. Because there would have been a lot of debris flying around. I really shouldn't give Muslims any more arguments, but like he split it and all of the debris floating around.
Makes sense.
Looks like Islam's going to win, guys. But yeah, it's kind of like, but you've got all of this evidence, but you're taking, well, the book must be true over all of this evidence that you acknowledge is evidence. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's last Thursdayism removed by 6,000 years for some reason.
Yeah, because your book says it's like, let's not forget as well. And I want to say this as well, that most Christians don't believe the 6,000-year-old thing. They say, hey, it's not meant to be taken literally. When sort of, because the 6,000 years is based upon the ages of these people in the Bible, they just sort of say, hey, in the beginning could have been X amount of time, and then these days aren't literal, they're metaphorical days, so they cover billions of years kind of thing, which I don't believe that, but at least you're acknowledging the evidence that we have of these things, like the scientific evidence. So most Christians don't believe this stuff. They're not fundamentalists. They don't believe that the Earth is 6,000 years old, especially, most of the Christians working in geology and astrophysics and all of these fields. They, Francis Collins, who did amazing work on the human genome. He doesn't believe any of this stuff. Like, there's no way. And he's very, very, absolutely a very devout Christian. That's okay.
Oh, Kamikaze makes a point that I want to build on to make an even bigger point. Yes, Aaron does a good job of outlining why the days don't make sense. Like, why are there plants before the sun? How do you even have literal days before there's the sun? But if Pastor Anderson here is going to contend that the universe was made billions of years old 6,000 years ago, then he's saying that it didn't happen the way Genesis says. He is saying that he believes something different than what the Bible says, because he's saying that all of it was created 6,300 years ago, but not the earth and then the plants and then the sun. It was all made retroactively. So he is countering the Bible with his explanation here. He just doesn't seem to realize it.
Well, they both kind of are, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah.
So I'd like to throw it over to you, Dr. Hovind. When it comes to the moon itself, and the craters that are seen through telescopes, what is your opinion on the impact craters themselves? Do you believe that the moon was created with impact craters, or do you think all of these impact craters are a result of the last 6,000 approximate years?
I believe God made a perfect universe. There were no craters on the moon. Everything was fine. And when the fountains of the deep broke open, a cubic foot of rock weighs about 64 pounds. There was probably 10 miles of rock on top of water under the crust of the earth.
Oh yeah, this is great. This is absolutely fantastic. This is peak. This is why we watch Hovind. This is peak Hovind. I mean, he really is a lol cow. I'm really sorry he is. He just, this is the most absurd thing. Yeah, get your popcorn, everybody. Exactly, Kamikaze. Get your popcorn. Get ready, because this is going to blow your minds.
The Bible says the fountains of the great deep broke open. The earth cracked up like an eggshell, and it still has those cracks today called fault lines all over the world. I believe the weight of all that rock on that water at the beginning of the flood, the earth cracked, that water went shooting out like a missile and would launch rocks up and plaster the moon like a shotgun in 10 minutes, or however long it takes the rocks to get there, okay? So I believe the bigger craters are on one side of the moon, and the other smaller craters on the other side of the moon. Let's see, I've got pictures here somewhere. I didn't know we were going to talk about that, but I believe the bigger craters on the near side facing us were from the direct blast from the Noah's flood, the fountains of the deep launching these rocks up there. They would easily reach escape velocity with that much pressure. It's 30 tons per square inch would be the pressure. And then,
yeah, so
that's
Hovind
not
has
enough for
decided
velocity.
That's definitely not a lot for escape velocity. And plus, you've got to take into account the friction with the air as well. Like, you can't just shoot something like it's from the Earth, like it's in space, like it has no drag or friction. There's that's why when we're calculating delta V, which is the amount of fuel we need to hit a vector, we don't, like, it's so much higher on the Earth because there is the friction with the air and the air pressure to work against. Once we're in space, delta V is relatively lower because we can, there's no air to provide friction against.
Well, you're also more distance away from the Earth's surface, so inverse square law, you have less force to deal with.
Correct,
it's 11 kilometers per second to get into orbit, and then 4 kilometers per second to achieve escape velocity once you're already in orbit.
Yep. But let's break this down. So he says when Noah's flood happened, the fountains of the deep opened up and shotgunned rock off the Earth into the moon, creating craters.
It was a big splooge.
I mean, holy crap. And then he has the nerve to say that radiometric dating is stupid and doesn't, like, seriously, it is not possible for this to happen. There is no way, no geyser or crater is going to provide enough thrust to get any rock up to escape velocity. It's just not.
And somehow Noah survived that catastrophic mega cataclysm in his little fucking toothpick boat.
Yep.
Yeah.
And what happened?
Good times.
Like, and the rocks would have fallen back to Earth, because even if one got to escape velocity, some would fall back down. Like, it is the dumbest idea I have heard in a long while. There's only one thing I've heard that's as dumb as this, and it came from Kent Hovind as well. I'm not sure if he goes into it actually, but yeah, that's stupid.
But that's the perfect design. That's how great God is. He designed it that way.
Holy crap.
And some of them shot past and drifted around in space, and some of them came back by moon's gravity and hit the backside. The backside of the moon, the craters are very small. And the near side, some of them are huge. Some of those rocks that got blasted off from the Earth when the fountains of the deep broke open.
He sounds like a child giving an explanation for something.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, what happened is the fountains of the deep broke open and it spewed up rock, and the rock shotgunned the moon, and then they went round and hit the...
Yeah, and like, there's so much wrong with that, obviously, but it's not even in the fucking Bible. He's like doing that thing where he's not even reading his own idea into the text. This is completely outside the text. He is literally just making shit up.
Yes.
And going, that must be why. You know?
And then claiming that it's scientific. Like, there's nothing scientific about this in the slightest. Nothing scientific. If there was a explosion big enough to launch rocks at the frigging moon, we would see that all over. Like, we're talking about 3,000 years ago, right? 3,000 years ago, that water made a explosion on the surface of the planet, bigger than the biggest volcano ever, right? And we have no record of it anywhere. Insane. Just insane.
Are still flying around. And we are flashing around, running around the sun, and we smack into them like bugs on a windshield, and we're still hitting the rocks that came off the Earth 4,400 years ago. So yeah, I disagree on that one. I think the moon was made perfect. It was not made to look ugly with craters on it. I think it was nice and smooth, a shining object, and the flood of Noah and the fountains of the deep made, I'm going to pick a wild number, 95% of the craters made in first few months. A few more have been landing since then, but I think the flood explains it all.
So I want to kind of give you an open discussion here. It sounds like y'all definitely don't agree on this particular viewpoint. What is your response as far as what Dr. Hovind said, Pastor Anderson?
I think that is probably one of the craziest things I've ever heard in my life. And let me just give some facts. There are over 5,000 craters on the moon that are at least 12 miles in diameter. And so the type of a meteor that it would take to create a crater that's more than 12 miles, many of them are way more than that, but I'm saying 5,000 of them are more than 12 miles. Well, even just to make a 12-mile diameter crater, you're going to need a projectile at least 1 kilometer in diameter. So when he talks about rocks being shot up into space from Earth, let's just be clear that in order to make one of those craters, even the smallest of the 5,000, you would need a projectile about 1 kilometer in diameter. So you expect me to believe that easily, as he said, rocks were fired at 25,000 miles an hour that were bigger than football stadiums. So football stadium size.
The bigot has a point. I gotta say, the bigot does have a point.
Rocks, and that's not even big enough because it would have to be 1 kilometer in all directions, were shot up at the moon to the tune of 5,000 craters that are over 12 miles in diameter. These are not made by little rocks. They're made by gigantic impacts. And so I think that anybody at home who's watching this with 2 brain cells to rub together realizes that you can't accelerate a 1 kilometer or 1 mile in diameter solid rock meteor into space from Earth using water pressure. That's the most absurd, unscientific garbage I've ever heard in my life.
Well, I want to give Dr. Hovind a chance to respond to this.
It's even worse than that, actually, because the moon's gravity is 1/6 that of Earth.
Yeah.
So to produce craters, you need that much faster of an impact force because it's not getting as much tug from the moon.
Right. Yeah. So it is absolute garbage. This explanation is absolute garbage. It's a terrible explanation. He's better off with going with something else, like seriously, that God created it with craters. That's,
Kent is his own straw man. He's making this crazy person look rational by comparison.
Yeah. And I don't know whether I'm happy that Anderson's being rational or upset because he is a hateful bigot, and but Kent makes him look like the sanest person. Do you know how bad it is when Steven Anderson seems like the sanest person in the room? Seriously. I mean, I will remind you.
Hell yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oof.
And I am curious if rocks were shooting off of the Earth, they wouldn't be shooting only at the moon. So I'm curious if that were true, if we would see these remnants virtually in every single direction. But I want to give you a chance, Dr. Hovind. What do you say to someone countering this claim of rocks being shot from the Earth to the moon?
Well, first of all, I guess I'm shocked and saddened that Brother Anderson wants to argue about everything. I thought we were here to discuss something. Tim, it's just nothing but let's bash Hovind, bash anybody, trying to make himself look good, I think.
Well, I mean, there's only so much bull crap you can put up with, right? I mean, I hate to defending Anderson, but you're saying stuff that's clearly absurd. I don't
Well,
know.
I think that's kind of the point. Is like Hovind is presenting a case, and then Anderson's like, "That's dumb." And Hovind's like, "Oh, he's just calling me dumb. We need to discuss things."
Oh,
Like,
I
oh
thought
my
we were here
goodness.
to agree on stuff. I thought we were here to agree on things and
Yes,
kind of.
debates renowned for agreeing on things. That's how that
Well, I
works.
mean, it's not a debate. It's supposed to be a discussion, but like there's some things that are so stupid you can't help but say, "Hey, that is stupid." It is. I'm really sorry. It is.
Yeah, it's
Okay, but no, I think the moon is.
Yeah.
Most of its craters came from being blasted by the Earth. The moon does have a lot of big craters. You can take a BB and accelerate. You can get a 22 rifle and accelerate it fast enough. You can hit the mud and make a 4-foot crater with a little bitty gun if you shoot it, if it's going fast enough. Once it escapes
fuck
Earth's
you
gravitational
can.
pull,
Yeah, I don't think you can. Isn't BB a plastic thing?
You can get metal ones, but they're like 0.33 gauge. What I think it works out to like 11 millimeters across. No, smaller than that even, because that would make no.
Well,
hold on. It's 100 millimeters per centimeter, right? Yeah, centimeter.
yeah, I think so.
Whatever. I'm in the United States, so my metric is just garbage. Yeah, BBs are. You can get metal ones, but they're fucking tiny. To get them going fast enough to make a 4-foot crater in mud, I don't even know where to begin calculating the math for that. But
well, it's 10 millimeters. Yeah.
Any commercial BB gun is just not gonna do it. Not even a little bit.
Yeah, but he's saying if you send it fast enough, right? So what he's basically
with a
doing
rail gun, maybe, but not for a gun you're gonna buy from a store.
I don't even know what to say to that. And plus, the moon isn't mud; it's rock.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're talking about putting a crater in the rock, not mud. Like, why is he talking about mud? The moon isn't made of mud.
It could have been,
though. Maybe.
I mean, if it got deluged with that much water, you've got all the dust
true.
and dirt up there, and yeah.
Why don't we find water on the moon?
There is actually a surprising amount of water up there.
Do we? Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a couple of deposits, possibly from comets in the poles where it stays shady all the time, but there's also subsurface aquifers that have a really surprising amount of water.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
There's moon's gravitational pull. It's not near as great as the Earth, and it would suck it in. But this is such a minor point we're arguing about. Here's the whole world dying and going to hell, and we're arguing over craters on the moon.
The dodge is real. The dodge is real. You're talking about the age of the Earth, and the whole point was, Anderson's point was that it can't be that old because the craters has to be at least appear to be 4.6 billion because the craters can't form in your 6,000. That's the point. He's just been absolutely slapped down, and he's just going, "Oh, this is an irrelevant point." Yeah, it's always irrelevant when you've had your ass handed to you, Ken.
in a way, he kind of Anderson kind of has the best dodge ever, because he can accept all the science. He can say all the science is I have no problem with your scientific results. I'm just saying that it's magic.
No, he can't, because he still has to say there's flood. Right, so he still has to say, true. Right, so up until that 6,000 years, you're right, he can dodge whatever science he wants. But as that clock starts rolling, that the Bible's describing things that are happening, he's got to refute all of the science that says, that there was no global flood, and that Adam and Eve were created in Garden of Eden, no out of Africa kind of thing, because he's then keyed into that timeline, and we'll see that later on. But yeah, Hovind's just ducking and dodging, really. He's had his ass handed to him, and he's just sort of ducking and dodging.
I think this is also where the rings of Saturn and other planets came from. Maybe some of the moons of other planets were blasted off and are caught in their gravitational field and are circling them.
Why not other planets? I don't know. I wasn't there.
Watch the video when we get to heaven.
Mars is ejected from the Earth. The entire asteroid belt is ejecta from the Earth. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, what's Ganymede is the largest moon? How big is that? That's huge. Like, how
It's pretty
big do you
huge.
think? How big do you think the Earth was? So hang on a sec. I'll just find a size comparison, and just to show you how frigging dumb this idea is that the moons were blasted off. So there's the Earth down here. There's Ganymede and Callisto, Europa, Io, Triton. Like, you're claiming, how big was the Earth in the past exactly? And how did it blast off all of this stuff? I mean, there's Titan. But seriously? I'm really sorry. This is the dumbest argument I've heard in it's just the dumbest argument I've heard. Like, really. That's a new one. It's a whole new level of stupid.
Well, he doesn't understand how anything works, so to him it doesn't. He doesn't know enough about any of these subjects to realize how ridiculously wrong he is.
Right. It's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing how wrong that is.
But I think it's so silly to be arguing about this. He gave his theory, I gave my theory. He thinks the moon was created looking all battered up. I think the moon was created perfect and got battered up later because of man's sin, and God had to destroy the world. So it's not worth arguing about to me.
Well, and again, I don't want to necessarily make this really contentious. Obviously, we agree on all the really important things we kind of talked about at the beginning. We're King James only, we're Baptist. I do think that there is value in discussing different theories here, because I do think it's important that when we face opposition, that we are providing the best arguments, right? We're making sure that when we present the Bible, we're presenting in a logical manner. We don't have to be anti-scientific. We don't have to acquiesce to what the world says. So, the Earth, if modern science is telling me the Earth is 4.5 billion years old and that dinosaurs were here 200 million years ago, I feel like that's in direct contrast to what the Bible teaches about the global flood. I think in 2 Peter chapter number 3, the Bible is really clear that these people who hate the Bible are willingly ignorant of the flood. And I'm paraphrasing that specific section of scripture, but they're
willingly ignorant.
Yes, we're willingly ignorant. Yes. No projection.
Again, irony. Yeah. Because if there's anybody I would say is willingly ignorant of scientific facts, it would be Hovind. I mean, the amount of times he said, "Oh, I'll look that up. I'll look into it. I'll look at it. I will get familiar with it. I will understand." He never does, ever.
Well, you should know better than to take the word of inmate number 06452-017.
Yeah. It's like a snake oil saying, "I'll look into those ingredients, make sure that they are doing what they did." They never will. They never will.
They're willingly ignorant of the fact that the old world perished. And so, I think that there must be ample evidence of the entire world having died rapidly in a catastrophic event. And that seems to be in sharp contrast to a lot of the dates that they subscribe to, the geologic column and these other things. So I'm not going to just acquiesce to science in that regard. I'm going to push back and say, I think that there's probably...
Oh, shoot.
Did the audio...
Yeah, his audio got weirdly scratchy and then just dropped out entirely.
Okay. I do have this problem upon occasion. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to duck out and back in because I think that'd be for the best. So give me 1 second.
Oh, I don't have my pirate banner because when this happens, I put up the pirate flag and we take over the channel and we start, giving away resources like, I don't know, maybe the custom emojis or something. Like, you get an emoji and you get an emoji. But I guess that's Maya's thing these days. Anyway, who's got some rum? Oh, and Mark's back.
To do with swapping what screen you're sharing, I've got to maybe stop doing that because it seems to have issues, I think. Where is it?
Next time, I instead of bemoaning my lack of buttons, because my internet got fried a couple of weeks ago. We had snowstorms that caused rapid blackouts, on, off, on, off, on, off. It fried the router. We got a new router, but I haven't been able to get my controls to connect back to my gizmos, like my flags and my sound effects and things. I'm still working on it, but it is a pain in the ass. But next time, instead of grumping about that, I should like just chill things. Like, hey, while we're here, have you considered the Patreon? You know? Or I don't know, buy a T-shirt or something. Oh shoot, I have a T-shirt over yonder. Where'd I put it?
Where were we at? Hang on a second. I want to look at the thing and find out where we're at.
Yeah, that's a good thing to note.
Yes, it is, and my screen is covering it, so I don't know. All right, let's just pick a spot and. That'll do. Let's speed you up.
Da da da. We're building it faster than Noah could build an ark.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, let me know if the sound's back or not, please. Somebody.
Rocks being shot from the Earth to the Moon.
Well, first of all, I guess I'm shocked and saddened that Brother Anderson wants to argue about everything. I thought we were here to discuss something. Him is just nothing but let's bash Hovind, bash anybody, try to make himself look good, I think, okay? But no, I think the moon most of its craters came from being blasted by the Earth. The moon does have a lot of big craters. You can take a BB and you can get a 22 rifle. I think this is also where the rings of Saturn and other planets came from. Maybe
be anti-scientific. We don't have to acquiesce to what the world says. So, the Earth, if modern science is telling me the Earth is 4.5 billion years old,
this is the part, I think.
And it's 100 million years ago, I feel like that's in direct contrast to what the Bible teaches about the global flood. I think in 2 Peter chapter number 3, the Bible is really clear that these people who hate the Bible are willingly ignorant of the flood. And I'm paraphrasing that specific section of scripture, but they're willingly ignorant of the fact that the old world perished. And so, I think that there must be ample evidence of the entire world having died rapidly in a catastrophic event. And that seems to be in sharp contrast to a lot of the dates that they subscribe to, the geologic column and these other things. So I'm not going to just acquiesce to science in that regard. I'm going to push back and say, I think that there's probably legitimate science that contradicts this opinion. But at the same time, when we look at things in the universe, we look at astronomy, we look at the starlight distance issue, we look at the moon. I think it's interesting to identify what's kind of the best arguments here. Should we look at this as just being an age of appearance, or do we kind of think that this is actually bad science, or there's better scientific arguments that could be made? I mean, from your perspective, Ben, I mean, we want to contend for the faith here, and we have to talk to very hostile people. In fact, a lot of people believe in theistic evolution, gap theory, all kinds of crazy theories. Don't you think it's still important to have discussions on even some of these,
How do you feel about those crazy theories like evolution? Crazy, right?
Yeah, crazy evolution. Right up there with gap theory. They're equally crazy.
Wow.
If only there were a test, a way we could determine what's actually old and what's only created with the illusionary appearance of being old.
Yeah, so some testable predictions and some rigorous scientific tests, or some kind of institution that would go over things that people submit and make sure they're scientifically rigorous. It's a shame we don't have anything like that anywhere in the world, right, Ember?
Yeah. If only God created us with the brains to figure these things out. Oh, well, I guess I'll go back to eating bananas.
Yeah, we need to be presenting I don't think it's profitable to present ourselves in such a way that we would get laughed out of the room in any kind of serious discussion on the.
Too late for Kent.
Who's that guy?
That's the other. He's the co-host, I think. So he's the second host. I kind of skipped their introduction because it was boring, and they were just talking about how the Bible is true, basically. So I just skipped it. But he's the other co-host.
These subjects, which is why I think that some Christians go over the top, in my opinion, and throw the baby out with the bathwater with regard to this subject matter, and end up looking a little bit foolish. Which is why it's important to be well balanced, and we need to make sure that we're keeping science where it needs to be and religion where it needs to be, and not allowing both of them to get out of their lane. When science does so, you get evolution. When religion does so, though, I think you get.
No, evolution is well within science's lane. It could not be more in science's lane if it, holy crap.
Yeah, it's the most sciencey science. Well, one of the most sciencey sciences we've got going on these days.
Yeah.
But also, there's so many really devout Christians who have no problem at all with evolution. They just go, that's the way God decided to do the thing. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
That was the original point of science from a Christian perspective, is to try to figure out the mechanisms God used to do the things.
Mm-hmm. But he's basically saying, hey, let science do what it's doing. We can just do what we're doing, kind of thing. And I think as far as theists are concerned, I think that's probably the tack they should take. I think this guy's is right, because every time that theists try to enter the scientific arena with non-scientific ideas, they end up looking like idiots. Like, really. Case in point, Hovind, right? He really does, so I think that he does have a point. Like, he does actually have a point. If you want to believe that everything was created this apparent age, hey, you're entitled to your beliefs. There's no reason for me to consider it, but it's going to make you look less foolish than, the Earth shot a shotgun of rock at the moon. I mean, seriously.
Unscientific arguments for the young Earth. That's my opinion. And so, to me, why I really like the apparent age doctrine is because it appears to, in my view, bridge that gap while not throwing out that which has been established as scientific fact.
We're going to be taking some questions as well from the chat and also call-ins. We should have the number that we can bring up on the screen, and you can ask your question to Dr. Hovind or Pastor Anderson. It's 231-BAPTIST. You can call, and we'll take a few calls, and you can just state your question, and we'll go to those here in a
Oh, I wish I could call in and ask us Hovind a question or two. I really do. How's that court case going, Hovind? You appealed your conviction for domestic violence?
Yeah.
Just asking.
For a minute, but do we have any questions from the chat that you had wanted to get to, Ben, already, or are we still waiting on a few of those?
I think we're going to wait for that to get queued up.
Okay.
But I want to ask a quick question to Pastor Anderson regarding the moon. And to me, that is one of the strongest proofs that God created the universe with an apparent age, in my opinion. But Pastor Anderson, regarding the moon.
Or alternatively, it's just the age of the universe. Alternatively, like, just stretch your mind just for a tiny bit. And instead of God created everything, the apparent age is the actual age of the universe. That's just the extra step.
It's so amusing to me that these fellows who have such a personal struggle with acknowledging that they are in fact apes, that they're primates, are the ones in our society most acting like apes and primates. Like, you look at these guys dancing around and being like, ooga booga, I don't want to hear the truth because I believe that it just, they look so ape-like while they're doing it. They're like, no, I don't wanna.
Yeah. And ready to throw rocks at other apes because apes said something I don't like. It's very, very odd. It's very strange.
Moon. Could you speak to also this concept of a hypothetical backstory that can then be attached to these craters that we see on there?
Yeah, I would say that when God created the universe.
Sorry?
The whole it was a very long-winded way that co-host had of saying, could you speak to the fact that Hovind basically just made that shit up, that nothing in the Bible suggests that?
Right.
First, he didn't just put things in place willy-nilly. He didn't just make planets capriciously, but that rather the solar system, the planets, the moon.
Well, he kind of made black holes, and I struggle to find out what black holes are for in relation to us.
Oh yeah, and exoplanets. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you might be able to make a case that there need to be the stars that need to be there so that the Earth would form the way that it formed, and so on and so forth, even in the most distant galaxies. But why are there exoplanets if the entire point is Earth and just Earth? Because you can have the same masses in the same points in the cosmos without, like, stars make up 99% and a considerable amount of change of the mass of their solar system. So instead of having exoplanets, just keep that mass in the stars. So why are there exoplanets?
Yeah. Because apparently God liked creating things for no reason at all.
Absolutely. Also, my eyes are getting tired because I read that as tough as a rock form from atheists.
It could be. Were
I'm
you
like,
there?
It
You
would
know,
make a
were
tough
you
ride.
there?
I mean, you know, I'm like 85% ash myself, so
moons and everything are basically in place where they would be had they come into existence over time. And so God created them not only mature, but basically with like a hypothetical backstory of what would have led to them looking the way that they did. So it's sort of like Adam has a belly button, which is basically a scar from an umbilical cord that he never had.
And this is a great argument. Like, this is a great argument. Why does Adam have a belly button? If he was never born, if he was created.
Related. I don't know for sure that Adam did have a belly button, but Adam does speak about how a man must go forth from his father and mother and cleave to his wife and form a new family. How the fuck does Adam know what a father and mother are?
Because apparently he was born with that knowledge? I don't know.
Yeah, there's so much fun stuff in Genesis. And also, the creationists actually do us atheists a great service here. Not these guys specifically. Ken Ham is who I'm thinking of, who says we have to believe Genesis is literally true and not just a metaphor, because if Adam and Eve were metaphors, then original sin didn't actually happen. And if original sin didn't actually happen, what the fuck is the point of Jesus? And he is absolutely right.
Yeah. God created a backstory for Adam. Well, you're not wrong. But I mean, the Adam and Eve story in the Bible is kind of like fan fiction from the Torah kind of thing. Like, you know, you've got to remember this was based upon an earlier myth, kind of like, you know, it wasn't the original. Someone mentioned Lilith earlier. That doesn't appear in the Bible, but it does appear in some of the Jewish legends. So yeah, it's really weird.
Oh yeah, it's a composite, like a lot of myths. It's a composite of a bunch of stuff. The Garden of Eden story was anti Proto-Hebrew propaganda from the first group of people that they conquered. But the creation story at the beginning of Genesis was cut and pasted from the Babylonian creation myth of Marduk centuries and centuries and centuries later. So it's all just a mishmash. It's all, in really fact, I was talking to Kip Davis in an open stream once, and it's not impossible, and I'd say it's quite likely, but Kip says it's not impossible, that every single story in the Bible is propaganda. Some of it may have some truth to it, but it's framed as propaganda. It's a sales pitch from cover to cover.
Yeah. Is that Kip Davis?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's awesome. Yep.
But every human being has a belly button. Although Adam was never born, Adam never was a child, he was never a teenager, he never went through those stages. But yet, obviously, God thought through all that before creating Adam. And he also thought through, you know, how basically solar systems or planets are forming throughout the universe. Because, you know, obviously, we live in the solar system, but out in the universe, you have all these other stars and other planets are constantly forming. Of course, none of them have life on them because that is only something that God can.
That we know of.
How do you know that? How do you know that? That's a big claim right there, right? Like none of the other planets
really
have any
is.
life on.
It's aside from the creation by magic, it's possibly the biggest claim he could make without any knowledge, because given what we do know about the possibilities of abiogenesis and how it may have happened, and the frequency of the materials that give rise to life, the various amino acids are all over the damn place. Nucleotides are forming spontaneously on fucking asteroids. Like, all the ingredients of life are everywhere in the cosmos, you know? So the idea that life would only form ever on Earth, that's a really unlikely thing.
Right.
Create. But, you know, it's kind of funny to me how Ken Hovind, who in virtually all of his videos that I've watched, you know, in the last couple of days before coming on this program, he's in every video I've seen, he's calling people stupid, dumb, they're idiots. And then he comes on here and I'm just talking about the facts. and he's making these ad hominem attacks on me, and he can't stop whining because I don't agree with him, and because I think that his views are crazy and stupid and unscientific, and they make Christianity look stupid. And it's flat earth level kind of stuff when you talk about the craters on the moon, gigantic craters, 12 miles, 50 miles, 100-mile craters being made by little BB and gravels that supposedly shot into the universe during the flood. That's not a small point. That's just a little sample of the pseudoscience that he continually peddles and the stuff that he teaches. And it's just funny how he can call people idiots and dumb and stupid in every video that he makes, literally. But then he just doesn't like having his ideas challenged. And then he has this ad hominem attack that I'm trying to make myself look good. First of all, this interview was not my idea. This is not a subject that I talk very much about at all. This is not a subject that I'm super interested in. He's the one going around calling himself doctor and putting on airs. So, I don't understand why he can dish out all of this talk about all the scientists all being God haters and idiots and stupid. And then someone just can't challenge his crackpot idea. If I'm going to be on this program with him, I don't want anyone to think for 1 second that I subscribe to this bizarre teaching that he's doing. It's wrong. It's foolish. Anybody at home with 2 brain cells to rub together knows that there is no way that gigantic boulders that could make craters on the moon that are hundreds of miles in diameter, again, 5,000 of them that are over 12 miles in diameter, to think that these were fired from Earth, having to reach an escape velocity of 25,000 miles an hour, that you're just going to take giant rocks the size of cities and football fields and accelerate them 25,000 miles an hour into space. Of course, he wants to whine and cry about my tone because he can't answer this, because it's absurd. No, BBs and gravel can't make craters 100 miles in diameter, and it doesn't matter how fast they're going. And no, you can't accelerate gigantic boulders into space at 25,000 miles an hour. That's just stupid. Sorry.
Okay, so
I love that he goes after Kent for, in his other videos he calls people idiot and stupid, and then in the next breath calls Kent, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Like, is it even possible for creationists to make an argument without projecting ever? Like, he still doesn't have his own argument. He's poking holes in Kent's argument. Right. Kent doesn't have an argument. He's poking holes in actual science. It's just round and round and round with the same nonsense. And he says, oh, I would never use an ad hominem. And everything he said was ad hominem, effectively. What is happening right now?
But he's not incorrect. That's the thing. Like, the stuff that Hovind peddles is so far outside the pale. Like, it is so wrong and nonsensical. He's not actually wrong on that point. But the way he's going about it while saying, oh, you call people stupid and an idiot, and you're stupid and an idiot. It's like, oh boy. Like, it's hypocritical of Anderson, but he's not actually wrong. Like, that's the thing.
In a way, I am really, really glad that this discussion happened, because I think while it may help having us point out these things, but I think a lot of people watching are like, this just wakes people up to be like, oh, this whole thing is full of shit. What have I been doing with my life? I'm going to go enroll in college,
Yeah.
Shit's crazy.
Yeah. It's absolutely crazy. And I think that Anderson watched his stuff and just got mad because, like, a lot of Christians will say that Kent makes them look bad. He makes them look bad because his arguments are terrible. And we know that. We sort of say, hey, you should debate Kent. He's predictable. His arguments are terrible. Like, we know how bad he is. But the problem is that other Christians see him and go, damn. But, Kent, like, somebody left a comment saying, oh, Kent might have done some wrong things, but he's turned so many people to Christianity almost beyond counting. And it's like, my response was, who told you that? Who told you that he's converted that many people? Guess who told you that? Kent told you that. Right? That's the
Greg
person
Locke does the same thing. He's like, oh, we've baptized so many people. Well, how do we know? Oh, Greg said so. Awesome.
Exactly. Like, think about who's telling you this information about how amazing Kent is for the faith, because it's Kent saying it. and other people are sort of going, wow, that's actually embarrassing, and sort of, it's horrible what he's done. So, it's this. I mean, it's almost a cult of personality that he's got going on.
So I want to give Dr. Hovind a chance to respond. But before I do that, I do want to make it clear, it was my idea to bring both of these people on. And it's because I like both Dr. Hovind and Pastor Anderson. I really feel like I was inspired to study the Bible more and use the King James Bible because of a lot of the videos I watched from Dr. Hovind. And I like a lot of the material that he has. Additionally, I do agree with some of the things that Pastor Anderson is contending here on. But I would say this, I take offense at any theory being as dumb as the flat earth theory, because boy, the flat earth theory just makes me cringe. And I know that both individuals here would totally reject the flat earth. That's ridiculous. I won't even get in the car with someone that's flat earth because they might drive me off the edge.
Yeah, so they both use essentially the same arguments, like young earth and flat earth. I mean,
it's hilarious when they attack each other. It's the same thing as these two attacking each other. It's like you're both ridiculous and you don't seem to realize it. Like, Mark, you and I can retire and just let these guys do our work for us.
Good, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But that's the thing when Hovind's saying, oh, flat earth is so stupid. It has these arguments which are so stupid and unscientific. And it's like, you've got arguments which are so stupid and unscientific. In fact, Stephen Anderson was right when he said, this ejector from Earth by the fountains of the deep making the craters on the moon is about as absurd as flat Earth. It is. He's right about that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, both of these men, believe in the King James Bible. We believe salvation by faith. We're Baptist. And I
love how he's got to keep going back to, hey, don't forget, we're all Baptists here. Let's not tear each other a new ass, because we're all Baptists here. Come now. We all believe in the King James, and we all, it's sort of, your common ground is pretty bloody narrow there, mate.
it doesn't bother me for us to, discuss these issues, even if they're not the most important. And I didn't anticipate that to be this confrontational, but it's fine. We can talk about it. Now, I do want to give Dr. Hovind a response here. Obviously, a lot was said. What do you want to say?
My brother, what happened? Oh, there we go. Okay. Sorry. That one of the options, we asked, how did the moon get its craters? He thinks it was made thinking. God made it perfect to be a reflector for the sun to shine on the earth. I think it got those craters later. One option is they came from Earth. Escape velocity, we could talk about that for hours if you'd like. I think we're wasting time. But the craters on the near, put my slides up, brother. The craters on the near side of the moon are different than the craters on the far side. There's also a lot of craters on the Earth. I think some of the stuff shot out and came right back and hit the Earth and made big craters here. The Barringer crater in Winslow, Arizona. That thing hit right next to the visitor center. That was perfect timing. That's a joke. Okay, never mind. Okay, so I think the fountains of the deep breaking open.
Okay, that's a joke. Okay. That's a joke. All right.
Yeah.
So bad. Like 100 years ago, 100 years after the flood. Okay.
Probably.
Oh,
what do I see in that crater? That looks an awful lot like layers. How strange.
How weird. Who knows? Who would have thunk it?
Yeah.
Open. This is one option. Or maybe there was another planet out there that disintegrated in the beginning, and some of those fragments hit the moon. I don't know. I wasn't there, and I really think we're wasting time talking about this. As far as if he wants to have a debate on all this and be confrontational, I love debates, brother. I thought I'd like to be your friend, but if you want to have a fight over this, bring it on. I'm not afraid of it at all. I think the scientific evidence clearly shows the Earth is not billions of years old. You're trying to twist the Bible to make it fit the evolution theory of billions of years. Well, maybe God made it look that way. I think you're compromising on this, brother. There's no reason to. The Bible says in the last time, the scoffers would be ignorant of the creation and the flood. They don't understand how God made the world. It's real clear. He stretched out the earth above the waters. There used to be water in.
Is a Christian calling another Christian a scoffer fighting words? Maybe? I don't know.
Maybe.
It sounded like fighting words. Scoffer. I don't. Am I a scoffer? I do scoff at some of these things, but I think they are scoff-worthy, to be honest with you.
I scoff a little, but I lean more towards mocking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I do find it funny, though. It is funny. Definitely funny.
In the earth and above the earth. I'm a strong believer in what's called the canopy theory. I can't prove it, but I think it's the most logical explanation for lots of things. But the original creation had water under the crust. That's where most of the flood water came from. It rained 40 days, but the water.
Okay, so canopy theory, if you haven't heard this, and this is the other one I was talking about, the other crazy one that I was talking about. In order to solve the heat problem, so the heat problem, if you're unaware of it, is that all of the heat-producing processes of the Earth, like friction from tectonic plates, radioactive decay puts out a ton of heat, The formation of limestone deposits puts out a ton of heat. All of these things create heat, as well as volcanic activity. A whole load of other things put out a ton of heat. Now, if the world is 6,000 years old, it cannot possibly disperse all that heat that has occurred. So the problem for creationists is explaining what happened to all the heat that was produced. Because if you have billions of years to disperse, radiate it into space and disperse it, it's fine. If you have 6,000 years, the Earth would be a ball of magma. Like it literally would vaporize everything. So there's the heat problem. And the creation, AIG hasn't solved it. They put together the RATE project to try and solve it. And they just appealed to future science. They basically said, yeah, we can't solve it. We will have to appeal to future science to solve it in some way in the future. So there's this problem. Now, Hovind's solution to this is an ice shell, like a round ice shell, like an M&M's shell, like, you know, the candy shell around it, made of ice that would take the heat away from the Earth. Now, could sunlight get in? Yeah, apparently it was transparent ice.
Sure.
The problem with that is that when you put a transparent roof around something or barrier over something, when the Earth is radiating heat, we call that a greenhouse, because shortwave radiation will pass through the transparent barrier, but long-wave radiation can't. It will bounce off and come back to Earth. That's the way a greenhouse works. So in order to solve the heat problem, Hovind suggests making a massive greenhouse.
Yeah. Made of ice, though. So
made of ice.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like you get igloos, they will still contain the heat, right? This is the misunderstanding that ice necessarily has a high heat transference rate. It doesn't. It's the dumbest idea that anyone's ever postulated to solve the heat problem. The dumbest. And somehow the structural integrity of this ice around the entire planet, I think he said it was an inch thick, is ludicrous. Like that is the, yeah, it would have to be kilometers thick. You're right, Beamsy. It would have to be kilometers thick. Yeah. And, you know, then how does the sunlight get through? Perfectly transparent. It's still a freaking greenhouse there. So many problems with it. It's insane. It is flat Earth level stuff. I'm sorry, it just is.
The water kept coming up for 150 days because the fountains of the deep were broken up. And a cubic foot of water, weighs about 160 pounds. You get 10 miles of that, you're talking about 30 tons per square inch. Yes, that would launch rocks into space. It doesn't have to, you made up the number of the kilometer-sized rock. I don't know where you got that. But the moon's gravity would pick it up. Maybe it circled around a few times and got caught in Earth's gravity and got accelerated again. All kinds of strange things happen with meteors. Look at the comets coming around. Earth's gravity accelerates and some fly right past, and we speed them up as they come by. So I think there's a whole lot of science that would back up the fact that there's a lot of junk in space. We're still hitting it, and like bugs on a windshield, I think that's where our craters came from.
There's a lot of junk in space because we put it there.
Mm-hmm.
Like space junk isn't necessarily rocks, and it's stuff that it's like satellites and debris from previous missions. We put that stuff there, Ken. Oh boy.
We are very messy critters. Lots of litter.
Yeah. Yeah, we really should do something about that.
From, but to me, it's such a minor point. I don't think you've proven it wrong. You just don't like it. Okay, you can have your God make a moon that looks ugly. My God made it perfect.
Well, I want
to. You reckon your God made a moon that was ugly, so therefore your God doesn't exist and mine does? What a dumbass argument! Holy crap!
Yes, that's how that works. And
that's
also,
how reality works. Yeah,
if the moon was made perfect, and part of the perfect plan was to fuck it up, how perfect is that plan really?
I don't know. I mean,
is fucking up the moon necessary to the redemption of humankind?
That's what I was thinking. Like, why screw it up? Like, and he thinks he's made like an award-winning point. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a trip.
Mm-hmm.
I want to let you respond here.
Yeah, let me respond to that. No, I didn't make up that number. Basically, craters end up being like in a 10-to-1 ratio from the projectiles that made them, or maybe 20-to-1. So I was giving the generous number of 20-to-1, that if it's a 12-mile crater, that it would be about 1/20th the size of the crater. The Barringer crater that you're pointing to in Arizona is a 2/3 of a mile in diameter. So it's way smaller. We're not even talking about craters that size. We're talking about craters that are dramatically larger than that, hundreds of miles in diameter, 12 miles plus, you have over 5,000 of them. Okay. And so I didn't make up that number. It's that when projectiles hit the Earth or the moon at incredible speeds, the size of the crater is in a relationship to the size of the projectile. So no, you can't shoot a BB or gravel and get craters that are 100 miles or 12 miles or 50 miles or anything like that. It's just absurd. No, and this ice canopy thing, don't even get me started on the stupidity of the ice canopy. Here's what's funny about that is that the word ice is never mentioned in Genesis. That didn't come from the Bible. In fact, the word ice is barely even mentioned in the entire Bible.
You know why that is? Because people back then didn't have a lot of ice.
Yeah, the Levant region of the Middle East, not well known for lots of icy bits. Yeah, very few icebergs and penguins and things.
Really, I thought they had emperor. No, that's Antarctica. Sorry, I totally missed one place for another.
Like 31,000 verses, it mentions ice like 3 times, and it has nothing to do with this supposed snow globe that you believe used to be around the Earth. That's totally unbiblical. It's totally unscientific. And it's that kind of just crackpot stuff that's never been observed, can't be tested. It's not science, it's pseudoscience. And, I think that you just don't like this subject about the craters because it's so crazy and you're so wrong.
He's not wrong. It is pseudoscience. So Anderson's position is kind of let science do its thing. We have our religion, keep them separate. I think that's what his position is. And it's a better position than Hovind's, because Hovind's is, we have the science and you guys perform pseudoscience. So it is a better position. He's still a freaking bigot, though.
Yeah, I wonder if Hovind keeps fucking up so badly. It gives him an opportunity to look good, and he doesn't actually get into his bigotry, or at least he hasn't yet.
Well, he hasn't yet. Well, yeah. The Baptist bias did their bigotry on a different video and got taken down. So they're all into bigotry. They're absolutely horrible. I can't, sort of communicate how horrible they are effectively. They are absolutely atrocious.
Well, I mean, anybody who brags about the fact that they have a bias instead of trying to work around it, it just...
Yeah. A lot of them do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just sort of go, no, I'm biased. I will happily, sort of subscribe to it. It's like, well, then why sort of engage with you have an honest discussion kind? You're basically saying, hey, I'm not interested in an honest discussion. Oh, well, that's great. Then why would I talk to you? Yeah.
Right.
I don't know why you want to schedule some
point.
Right.
Debate about it. I don't want to debate you. You're wrong. I already proved you wrong. Anybody at home who thinks you're right, I give up.
All right, Dr. Hovind, what do you say on that?
I would like to challenge you, brother. The moon is about 2,000 miles in diameter. I would like you to draw me a picture showing how you would place 5,000 craters 12 miles in diameter on a 2,000-mile ball. Show me a picture of that. I think
that's pretty easy because they overlap one another, because there are craters within craters. So give me a hard question, because anybody can do the research. Anybody can look at the high resolution images and they'll see that there are giant craters with lots of other craters inside them. And it's so funny how you talk about the craters on the backside of the moon being small. That's just because you're looking at a small picture. Those craters are gigantic and they are dramatically larger than the crater in Arizona that you pointed to that's 2/3 of a mile in diameter.
Now, I actually asked the audience this question, and I didn't necessarily anticipate we'd have so much animosity on this specific question, but I did put a poll out there on the community about the specific impact craters on the moon. I asked this question: was the moon created with the appearance of impact craters? And so I don't know if we can pull that up, the results over here, but basically asked yes, but not all of them. No, all impact craters are post-creation, or do you believe in the moon? So that's obviously crazy. What were the results? Can we, I don't know if can you see them? All right, there we go. So approximately 60.
Okay, it's actually scary that 14% don't believe the moon is real. Like, if I did that same poll, I don't think I would get that much somehow.
I mean, I would select that kind of thing because I'm always, yesterday Doc did a poll in his chat, who won the debate, Doc Dino or Dr. Dino or Dinosaur noises, and I went with dinosaur noises.
Yeah,
I have to go with the weird option.
Well, okay, you're a poll wrecker. I got you.
I mean, if you give me a weird option, I'm going to vote for it. It's what it's there for.
So what are the options? The moon has created the appearance, yes, but not all of them. All impact craters are post-creation. Okay.
60% said yes, that the moon was created with impact craters, and then about 25% of the audience says no, the impact crater is a result of the post-creation. So it seems like our audience is a little bit split on what the exact interpretation is here. I do think that we could probably go for hours on this question, but I want to take it to another practical question here, because we are kind of fighting about nuance here. And I think, ultimately, we still, no one's disagreeing. It was created 6,300 years ago, or approximately that time period, 6,000, 6,300, somewhere in that time frame.
No one disagrees.
When you talk about
nobody, I think he means nobody that's correct. I think is what he's saying. Nobody that's correct, I think, is the thing that he's saying there.
Yeah, I expect he means no one in the room in that conversation. It just, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Our real world. My kids and other students, they have to go to public school. They have to go to college. They're having to take science classes. And so from an education perspective, I personally think that your bias or worldview is going to greatly impact a lot of what's being taught in science, just from a sheer fact that, it's really hard to not interpret data based on your worldview. And so I kind of posed another question out there to my audience as far as what should be taught in science class. I don't know if you can pull that poll up as well, but I asked this question: what should be taught in science classes in universities? And I kind of put a couple of different options here. And this is basically just the bias. Would you?
Yep.
Yeah, literally.
That's the state of their audience.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the wonderful thing about a selection bias in your polling.
Mm-hmm. That's frightening, actually.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually frightening.
The good news is it's only 285 votes, as opposed to
well, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Some of these channels with hundreds of thousands or millions of followers.
Would you want our classes in the public schools or in science classes and universities to look at everything through the creation lens, like the Bible says? Or would you want them to be taught creation and evolution? Just these are the two views that.
Yeah.
Now, they've got these charts in our family textbook showing everything coming from an amoeba. This isn't science. All the forms of life on Earth today descended from a common ancestor. That's not science. That's a religious belief. No traces of those events remain. Well, then why is it in a science book? The word science comes from the Latin word seer. What do we know? We know humans make baby humans.
And there you go. He keeps saying it. Like, people keep telling me, oh, no, that's not what he says science is. That's exactly what he says. Uh-huh. He says science is what we know. That is not the definition of science. Get out of here.
You may have to take a clip of that, because people say that so freaking off. Oh, he doesn't say that. He says it every damn time.
Yeah.
Be humans, and cows make baby cows, and butterflies make baby butterflies. Well, that we know. We can see that. That is science. We do not know that a human and a butterfly have a common ancestor, like this textbook shows. None of this stuff should be taught in school. We should certainly not teach lies in the textbooks. If a person wishes to believe, my slide froze up, that amoeba or protozoa turned to a human, they can believe that. But that's a religious belief. So if we're going to exclude one religion, let's exclude them all. Let's exclude evolution. Evolution's nothing but a religion. You have to believe in it. There's no science whatsoever of any animal ever producing anything other than their kind.
So I've got that's not true, though. I mean,
that's not true, yeah.
We have lots and lots of science, which has been explained to Kent over and over and over.
Yeah,
and he's admitted proves him wrong, but then he resets and just starts his script over from the top. But if you do believe the Bible, if you believe the story of the New Testament, and you're using the non-Christian historians of the time as verification of the story of the New Testament, like Josephus, for example, then you have to accept in Josephus's histories, when he talks about the destruction of the Second Temple and a cow gave birth to a lamb. If you are Christian, you have to accept that as legitimate history. And so, Kent, we do have a historical record that shows a cow gave birth to a non-cow. So what now, Kent?
And Mr. Anderson did point out that a dog has produced a cancer that is transmissible. That is a different organism. It's a single cell organism. So a dog has produced a non-dog. That was actually an amazing line of reasoning from Mr. Anderson. Amazing.
Yeah, that's very. I mean, I don't. A transmissible cancer is fucking terrifying, but the way he used that to foil Kent is kind of brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's one in Tasmanian Devils as well. They sort of bite each other in the face and give each other cancer, but the cancer is a non-Tasmanian devil, but it came from a Tasmanian devil. What now, Kent?
Dogs make baby dogs. There's now 339 breeds of dogs. Probably had a common ancestor called a dog. That doesn't prove they're related to a tomato. But they show the kids these family trees like, oh yeah, boys and girls, you're related to tomatoes. I think that's ridiculous. So they can believe what they want, but I disagree. I think the Bible's clear. They're going to bring forth after their kind. That's what's been observed all through human history. 24 times in the first 7 chapters, God said they'll bring forth after their kind. That is science. So I think you should tell the kids, boys and girls.
That is not science. That is not science.
God
not
saying
all.
They'll bring
anyway.
forth after their kind of science.
Yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah. Like because science is the process we use of rigorous testing and the observation, hypothesis, testing, falsification, all of these things. How do we falsify that, Ken? How do we falsify that? It's just you want science to be what we know, so you can go, well, I know this, so therefore it's science. Get out of here, man. Like, seriously, if that's the case, then, you know, anything that I know, like, oh, there's a coffee cup here, that's science, because I know it.
Yeah.
Is me having a coffee cup science? Of course it frigging isn't.
It's so trippy.
Oh, it's the worst conflations and straw mans and you know, false analogies, just every terrible argument under the sun.
And double standards galore. Like your Victoria pointed out earlier. You know, Kent complains about lines on paper. Again, confusing the map for the place, but whatever.
Right.
But his entire argument is literally lines on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Girls, there are 4,000 breeds of potatoes now that man has cultivated, 4,000 kinds, and they probably had a common ancestor called a potato. That's that's science. That doesn't prove potatoes and humans are related. So we're absolutely, first of all, should we have public schools at all? I would say no. If we're going to have them, then just teach science. You can teach all the anatomy. This is the biceps, the triceps, the deltoid, the radius, the ulna, the humor, the flexors, the extender. You don't need to answer how it got there.
That's anatomy. Science is a bit larger than that, Ken. It's just...
Yeah, like if you use one process to figure out how trees grow so that you can use the structural design of trees to build better houses or whatever, and you figure it out and then you test it by building houses and it works. And then you use the same process of figuring shit out to determine how closely related, if at all, we are to a potato, and you get testable results, and you test them, and they hold up. It's the same process, Kent, so what is your issue other than you don't like the truth?
He just doesn't like the results of that particular branch of science. It would be like me saying, hey, I dislike quantum computers, so they don't work. Well, that's not what the science says. It's just I don't like them.
I mean, I don't like quantum computers either, but the beautiful thing is that because they're quantum, they both work and don't work at the same time.
Ah, there you go. There you go. I think you've misunderstood how they work there, but never mind.
Details.
This is how it works. No doctor on the planet worries about evolution while he's doing surgery.
That would be a surgeon. They're slightly different title. Yes, they're a doctor, but they're a surgeon. That's why they're called Mr. instead of doctor. I would think a doctor would know that, but you're not a real doctor, so of course you don't know that.
Yeah. More details.
So
but he may be correct. That may be the first correct thing he said all night. I don't think a surgeon is concerned about evolution while he's performing surgery.
Is a virologist concerned about evolution? Damn right they are. They're absolutely concerned. Is a bacteriologist concerned about evolution? Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They are absolutely concerned with it. Because that's where it's important. I don't know. It's like sort of saying, hey, a car driver doesn't worry about the shape of bananas while they're driving a car. Well, no, their job doesn't entail that. But there are other jobs that do. in a big way. Biologists, virologists, bacteriologists, tons of people have to worry about it.
I've thought about the shape of bananas while driving before. Did you know that the banana is perfectly shaped for the human hand?
Really?
So I've heard.
God must exist.
You better know his anatomy. Got nothing to do with evolution. So I would say shut them all down. Go ahead.
Well, and obviously I homeschool my children. I'm very pro homeschool. And so I don't believe that the public education system should be what it is. However, I think there is a place for universities. I mean, I don't want necessarily to go to a doctor or a surgeon and all of
he homeschools with Baptist biased, I would assume.
Them more individually homeschooled. You don't really know what was going on. I think there's probably a place for some formal education and some public education, but not necessarily what's going on today. So I definitely agree with you on that. From your perspective, though, Pastor Anderson, do you feel like what would you want taught? And do you feel like teaching a lot of these things with these big numbers of billions of years is like somehow a compromise? What's your view on that?
Well, of course, I would agree that, I don't think that the public school system is the right place for our children. But what I would say is that nothing should be taught about origins to our children in school, because it's not relevant. It's not a question that science can answer. I don't believe that science can tell us where the earth came from. I think only the Bible can tell us that. That's where, you could argue that religion or philosophy comes into play. Of course, we strongly believe.
Yeah, I think science can answer that question. I think it has answered that question. That's the thing. You're just the last remnants who are holding on to this Bible like it's going to change reality, and it's not. Science has answered that question.
Yeah, or at least provided plausible models. And, as many people say, all models are wrong, but some of them are useful. Yeah, what we believe today, what we understand today based on the best information available is probably going to get overturned at some point. But that's not a bad thing, because when that happens, it means we'll know more. We'll understand the universe better. And there is no universe in which knowing more about the universe is a disadvantage.
And what are a way to overturn that is to present your own model that makes sense and makes these predictions and we can use and is useful. Like the one that you're presenting is not, it's like my book says. That's it. Well, great. How do we figure out, sort of astronomy from that? We can't. How do we figure out the rates at which mutations happen from your book? We can't.
Yeah, no description of DNA, but God can do anything. God can't tell you about anything that wasn't known at the time. God can't even freaking... I just read Beamsy's comment. Why didn't he just make the Bible complete? Like, at the very beginning of Genesis, he doesn't even need to teach Adam. He just hands him the Bible. Why is the Bible made of paper? Why did it need humans to write it down? Why? There's so many whys. There's so many whys. But it's not just actual science and knowledge versus the Bible. It's actually the Bible versus the Quran versus the Vedas versus the rune stones, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. And if any of them can prove that they are remotely close to correct, then that one can stand up and maybe take on science.
Yeah.
But we don't have any reason to think any of them are more correct than any of the others.
Right. And they have the same amount of evidence for them. Like the Bible's got the same amount of evidence as Norse mythology.
Well, I dare say less, because I don't see any frost giants.
That's true. That's true.
I personally, I think the best case is for a form of Mithraism, perhaps, because the sun exists, so it at least has that going on. Yeah.
So Sol Invictus maybe maybe Helios is a contender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's revelation to mankind. It's God's word. And so, we know where we came from because of the Bible. And so I believe that a science class should stick to actual observable science, actual data that can be verified and tested. And so
it's all observable science, or all of it's observable. We observe things and then we put into place scientific methodologies. It's all observable. Endogenous retroviruses are observed. All of this stuff is observable. Holy crap. There's no such thing as historical science. And I know that PragerU and AIG and all of that has been doing this differentiate. There's just science. There's no nobody thinks there's historical science except for you people.
So I don't think that our children should be taught about origins, either from a creation or evolution standpoint. Now, when it comes to universities, I mean, those are places where ideas are explored and where people might want to specialize in these type of subjects. And so I wouldn't think that there would be a problem with a university teaching creation, teaching evolution to people that are specializing in those type of subjects. You know, they could teach those kind of things to people who want to take those classes because they're exploring those concepts. Because, you know, obviously universities are places where supposedly ideas are being explored.
What job are you going to get from creationism class?
Apologist.
Basically, yeah. I mean, we have theology classes, but we don't have a creationist class. Like, if you could make a curriculum for a creationist class, like explain it for a start, if you want it to be a science class, you've got to be able to do things like labs and experiments and stuff like that, right? I did my labs, you know, my laboratory work kind of thing, mostly on electronics, sure, but it's still labs, right? To be science, you've got to put that into place. If you're talking about theology, fine, that's an arts degree, totally fine. Like I'm fine with it. But you're talking about creationism like it's a science that we can build a curriculum, including testing and field work. What the frig are we talking about here?
Fieldwork creationism would be interesting to see.
Go to hell? I don't know what that would be.
Poof some apples into existence, fully matured.
I don't know what that would be.
Explored and human knowledge is being expanded. But when it comes to just educating the general public and teaching our children that are growing up, you know, I would rather just see nothing taught about it.
Okay, so it sounds like there's mostly agreement on this. I want to see if we can bring in a caller. We have a Frank Medina that is going to ask a question here, and we're going to just try and keep our callers to just asking the questions, and hopefully you can.
Yeah, so this is just going on to the callers, but I think we've seen the meat of the thing there. I'm not really interested in what callers have to say. Did you want to go through it, or did you want to halt it there?
No, I think that's pretty good.
yeah. I just wow, that was a lot. That was a lot. I feel like my brain has been sort of pummeled after that, like some real. I don't even know what to call that. We're pointing out the fallacies and what they're saying, but it's just the sheer the sheer nonsense of it all. Like the idea that this is, you know, and it's hard for me to say, hey, Steven Anderson won that one, but he did, because I don't want him to win anything. He's an absolute jerk who you know is so bigoted and nasty and treats a section of our population like utter crap. He's horrible, and he also put Hovind over a barrel because what are you supposed to say to that?
He stretched Hovind over the waters.
He stretched Hovind over the waters of the over the firmament. Yes, the firmament. What were your thoughts?
It was pretty ridiculous. It just yeah, I don't like to say that Anderson won either, but the beautiful thing is it reminds me of the old gladiatorial combat things, right? Like you put a criminal against a criminal, and you know one of them is going to win, but whichever one it is, the real winner is the person who set up the engagement. It's like either way, you're better off. You're one of them has been deposed or whatever. It's
but it's really it's like when you see Hovind going, you know, oh my God, created all this thing in X days, and there's an ice canopy. But flat earthers have such stupid ideas. You can tell them from me they're stupid, and it's like, well, yeah, you're not wrong, but. Right, you're not wrong, but holy crap, man, have you heard yourself lately? It's kind of like that, you know.
Well, you can extend that to all of Christianity, generally speaking. Like, you know, they'll talk about Jehovah's Witnesses or Scientologists and be like, oh, well, these are obviously cults. Now, excuse me, I'm late for my appointment to go eat the flesh and drink the blood of a carpenter ghost.
Yes.
It's like,
and I believe
are you
that
listening to yourself?
Yeah, and I believe that this wafer turns into the flesh of my dead prophet in my mouth.
Yeah,
but those
so
people that believe
there's
in
a lot of that.
literal 6-day creation are weird.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, I guess. Look, it's not too far a stretch if you're sort of going, hey, the God created everything with this apparent age. Just go, well, the Bible's metaphorical. It is that age. If you just go, well, the Bible's metaphorical on that thing, that's the age that it is. And it makes a lot more sense. It really does. That instead of God, for some reason, creating everything with this age and creating everything with this Adam with a belly button, all this stuff, that it was that age. And like I said, Anderson's got a problem, because if he believes in the flood definitely didn't happen, according to the science. So God would not only have had to do its flood, but cover his tracks afterwards.
Yeah, like creationist Charles Lyell said, if the flood did happen, it had to be so gentle that it left no traces at all.
Right. No, I totally think that's the case. That has to have happened. So, the easier thing to wrap your mind around is just, it wasn't a literal worldwide flood. May have been a local flood. There's tons of floods that have happened, especially in the Middle East. It's fine. It's just a local flood. And it was the entirety of Noah's world. It's not literal. I know then you've got the problem of, well, God wiping out everybody and stuff. But, and I guess you get into problems with Adam and Eve and things like that. Then why do we need a savior if there was no original sin and stuff? But I don't see it as a killer for there is a God. Right, that you can still believe that a God did all of these processes, and that's what Doc Dino actually was getting across very well last night on Standing for Truth. He was sort of saying, hey, you can believe in evolution and a God, you can believe in a billions of year old universe and a God. It doesn't preclude that.
Yeah, that was a really well executed call to action that he pulled off there at the end of his debate. I was like, that's some good work right there. Because even though I personally am anti-religious, igstheism, the idea that God concepts as they've been described just don't even make freaking sense. The world would definitely be a better place if religious people were able to take their religions and put them in a faith box and not let them fuck up their science and their morals and how they interact with reality.
Well, Stephen Anderson is approaching that. He's sort of saying, hey, just let the science be the science and have your religion be your religion, kind of thing. And that's at least it's not like Hovind, who's demanding this stuff be taught in schools and sort of telling people that the science is wrong, and then selling almond seeds, trying to, improve people's health, kind of thing. And just this nonsense pseudoscience that he's doing. And then has the temerity to turn around and call people working in the fields all their life as pseudoscientists. It's ridiculous. It's such projection. But, he's a convicted con artist, or, a fraudster that's been convicted of it. He's absolutely awful human being. So, yeah, this was a bit in. What do you have coming up, Amber? What can I see you on in? And I might link transpositions as well. So if you do want to support and hear from the trans community and what everybody is going through, please do subscribe.
Yeah, we're trying to bump up that channel as much as possible. It is new, so we're still working out some bugs, but I think the mission is really, really important. So we appreciate any support you can do, sharing and commenting and etc. You know how to do the YouTube things, all that sorts of stuff. So yeah, that's Thursday nights so far. I think 8 p.m. Eastern, but that may not be set in stone, and I just may be really sleepy and screwing everything up. But Yeah, we're gonna try to do a show every week, and go from there. As for me personally, tomorrow I've got a premiere over on my channel that's already visible. If you want to hit notify on that, it's I know it's a little bit of a long video, but the original live that it was cut down from is twice as long. And that'll bring everybody over to Bad Science Sunday at Maya's after, just like always. Assuming Maya gets her stream set up before mine is over, but doesn't always happen. I also am intending to do live streams at some point when I have the freaking time.
Okay.
I've got a whole bunch of things in my queue to do, and yeah, so there's.
Well, if you want something to do for the debate review next time, apparently they've both done responses. Robin just sent me the response from Hovind, which apparently the section that he's responding is about half an hour. And Pastor Anderson did a 10-minute response to his church of why he was mean to Kent Hovind. So that might actually be a little hilarious. To see their explanations of why they were at each other's throats. So yeah, interesting. Yeah,
little follow-up kind of thing. We can take a look, see if it would, if there's. I'm sure they're entertaining, but is there enough for us to like?
I don't know. I haven't watched them.
Yeah.
I honestly haven't watched them, so I wouldn't know. But we can check them out. We'll announce what we're doing and what we're going to be up to. That's fine. Not a problem at all. So that's Hovind's one, and I did download. Yeah, there it is. That's the Stephen Anderson's one. So check him out, and then we'll find out if we can do something on that.
Oh boy, yeah.
Time Shine. Yeah, we worship time apparently, Maya. Didn't you know? That's what we worship. We all bow down and pray to time, according to Hovind. We know that. So yeah.
Sure,
what have I
it's
got
as
coming
good as
up?
anything.
I have. I think I will open up a room this Wednesday for me. That's Tuesday night Eastern time. I do have my games channel going. So if you're around in, I'm generally doing that at night because I don't really have the time to do so sort of during the day. So I'm mostly doing that at night. So that's in the morning. I am doing some gaming. At the moment, I'm playing Elden Ring and having my ass handed to me because I am bad at the game. And I'm playing Baldur's Gate with Justin from Modern Day Debate / Matters Now / the Wavelength is this new channel. So they have come out with a new channel called the Wavelength. Everybody's starting channels. It's so good to see. I really like it. But the Wavelength is brand new as well. Their first guest is going to be Aaron Ra, which is I think they just did an interview with Aaron Ra. So their first guest, pretty impressive, pretty damn impressive, to be honest with you. So I'll link that as well. And that's being run by Justin and I Killed Earl, who is I Killed Earl, a massive friend of the channel. So everybody loves I Killed Earl.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Can someone please link Ember's channel? Oh, yeah, it should be in the description, but I can grab it for you. That's not a problem at all. That's not a problem. Copy link address. But yeah, Ember, it should be in the title and in the description. So we usually include people in the title and the description. Yeah.
I'm kicking around. I'm
yeah. Apart from that, I'll have another Fundamentalist Fails on my Friday or Thursday night for people. And then we're back to the debate reviews, which we'll see what we're doing. I'm sure we can find something.
Oh, for sure.
It'll be totally fine. Yeah. But happy Atheist Day.
Hell yeah.
What do I play? I play a variety of games. I do like roguelikes. I do like survival crafting. I do like stuff like Dark Souls-ish kind of stuff. So yeah, I play a different stuff, so yeah.
And don't forget to like and subscribe here.
Oh,
because Mark and I take turns doing debate reviews.
yeah.
We'll be on my channel next week, and then back here the following week. But also all the stuff Mark is talking about, except the gaming stuff, will be on this channel. And this is where, you know, the banhammer emoji lives.
Yeah, and Bigfoot Jesus. This is where Bigfoot Jesus makes his home. Bigfoot Jesus. Yeah, so thank you so much, everybody. Don't forget to take care of yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other. I have played that Beheaded, but not recently. That is a hard game. But yeah, lots of love to everybody. Take care, and I will definitely see you all very soon.
Yeah. Night, folks.
Bye-bye.